The weird. Exploring topics from the esoteric and unexplored to dimensions unknown. Shining a light of truth on the darkest corners of our reality. Welcome to the Curious Realm. Hey, now's when I'm supposed to hit that button. How you doing, everybody? Welcome back. Happy Tuesday night. We have an amazing guest in studio tonight. Very good friend of the show. He has been, good Lord, man, you've been coming on the show now for almost 6 years. It is mind-blowing.
I love it. Love it.
You're definitely up there as far as appearances and continuous appearances on the show. And definitely one of the guests that whenever we have you on, numbers creep up for a little while. Because of the topic. So welcome back to the show, Billy Joe Cain.
Let's
everybody.
Get those numbers up, everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
Click like,
here
subscribe,
we go.
Notifications.
There's Billy.
Do all
right
that
there.
stuff. Click it.
So click it or tick it.
Or tick it.
As we say here in Texas. So Billy Joe Cain, as many of you might know, is the founder of Radical Empathy Education Foundation here in Texas. He is also co-founder of PBJ Learning. Feel free to stop on by and check them out online, folks. You can find them right there online. Reefcares.org is Radical Empathy Education Foundation, and pbjlearning.com. The topic tonight is a rough one. It's a tough one, but it's one that I have come to consider a cause of my program, Billy, and that is human trafficking preventucation. It's a big word.
You got that right.
It's a big word.
Prevention education.
And that's just it. You know, trying to get people to understand exactly what human trafficking is, how it is different than the typical situation at the border or something like that, where, you know, you're talking coyotes and smuggling and that kind of stuff.
There's a lot of confusion about the topic, and it's and the media isn't doing their job of trying to educate people, in my opinion. So it's up to us to get out here and actually try to have that conversation with people directly. So one of the things that I found is really useful when we start having conversations about human trafficking is to actually go through the definition of what human trafficking is. And human trafficking is essentially someone unfairly profiting from someone else's effort. And human trafficking has 3 requirements according to the TVPA, which is the Trafficking Victims Protection Act. And those are action, means, and purpose. And an action is essentially having someone or possessing somebody or presenting somebody for means, which could be through force, fraud, or coercion, like you're tricking someone or forcing somebody into selling their body or their labor for sex. Or selling their body or their labor for a commercial exchange. So basically somebody is benefiting from that. And so everything else that you may think about trafficking, that it's happening because somebody comes across a border, that's not necessarily trafficking unless that person is being taken to a place where they are actually going to actively be trafficked. So
still something horrible. Still something absolutely. Now, oddly enough,
unless you're paying to get across that border yourself,
what
of
is
your own volition.
What is trafficking? Is getting a bunch of people from another country on a bus or a plane and taking them somewhere under the illusion that, hey, there's jobs there waiting for you, or like under coercion that when you get there, it's going to be better than here. That is human trafficking.
If someone financially benefits from that, that is trafficking.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah. So and it's how did you first come to the realization of this, Billy? Because the conversation we were just having with my wife Amy out front, as she was saying, at least generationally, right now as parents. We're pretty close to the same age. She was like, the issue is, of course, we were brought up with we were the generation of after school specials. Like I remember the episode of Different Strokes with the bike, and the guy trying to touch Arnold and things like that.
Right.
And those conversations happening on TV and happening in after school specials. And but we never heard about human trafficking. We heard a lot about drugs and how you can get them behind the Kroger.
Right. Right.
I don't think I knew exactly where to buy drugs until I saw most of those.
I see what you're saying.
But this was not on the radar, and as Amy was saying, it seems to get lumped in with like child abduction and things like that, where helicopter parents and people are same as our parents. We're really, really worried about child abduction. And it's like, your kid's more than likely going to get you struck by lightning on the playground before they're abducted in broad daylight on the playground. Like that is a pretty rare scenario. That's like a 1.5 to 2 percentile chance.
And of course, and that you're right. It's higher in certain areas, but that's not really the point. The point is that it's incredibly low.
Yeah.
Is my mic on, or is it working and coming in full for you? Because it's kind of popping in and out on this ear.
Oh, okay.
Here a little bit. I just wanted to make sure. So let me change over. Okay, I'm sure that'll be fine. Sorry, I just want to make sure that everybody's getting good.
Oh yeah, no, you're good.
But okay, so yes, that's right. That's definitely the case.
Yeah. Yeah, and unfortunately, because of that, it gets obfuscated, it gets hidden away, and gets put into the realm of, well, that's not something that you should really panic about. Because once again, abduction cases are in the low percentile. However, the chances of your child being socially groomed on social media, the chances of your child possibly knowing somebody at their school who might be trafficked, or something like that,
or that
are much greater,
or that your kid is going to be a victim of sextortion. If they get talked into sending a nude to somebody, they could now get in trouble for creation of child pornography. I mean, there's a lot of things that are very significant that are not human, don't rise to the cause of human trafficking necessarily, but they all do get lumped into the same thing. And I think there's something going on. And I'm trying to really put my finger on it, but when people are thinking about human trafficking now, it seems like they're putting that on like a QAnon sort of level, when all of those other things that we're talking about, the social bullying, the social extortion and things like that, that stuff is extremely real, and it's extremely manipulative, and it's happening on a broad scale that is unimaginable on the internet, with AI, with chatbots, with automated tools. The number of things the number of vectors that your kid or you or your adult, elderly parents are being attacked through, all are part and parcel of things that could lead to human trafficking. Human trafficking is just the bullseye for all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, for some reason, it's all kind of just getting lumped over into the, no, shouldn't worry about that. It's like, no, man, there are certain things that are extremely real. Like your kid, if your kid has access to the internet, your child is in danger. if they can get SMS texts back and forth.
Yep.
If as
Yep.
soon as they get one SMS text that they click on, that kid could be going down a pornography road. They could be getting tricked into doing things that you would never expect. I mean, there was a kid recently that had come back. The family came home from vacation, and in the middle of the night, the son got talked into exposing himself through the internet, and they blackmailed him, and so he killed himself. Like, boom. You
Yeah.
wake up and you wake up and your kid was murdered by somebody on the internet. And it's like they use our very human need for love and attention and affection against us.
Well, and that
Everybody isn't perfect, and who has any sort of armament or armor for this stuff, unless your parents are like psychiatrists or psychologists, and they teach you from forever. It's like they're more sophisticated than we are. That's all there is to it. This is what they do for a living.
Well, yeah, and unfortunately, the people that do things like this, be they a pimp, a madam, things like that, there is a sociological need inside of there, psychologically, that leads them to that point of one of control.
And something gets them under their control. That's absolutely right, and it's done psychologically, as you said.
It's a slow process. It doesn't just happen. It doesn't just happen.
Yeah, they develop your trust over a period of years, possibly.
A prime example is Chong Kim, our good friend. If you're out there listening, Chong, hello.
She says hi. I just talked to her this morning, so yeah, she did say hey.
Awesome. And yeah, she was a young person who fell in love with somebody, and he dazzled her and had a uniform and all kinds of things. And once she was away from home, and on her own with him, and somewhere where she couldn't support herself without him, things like that, the story changed. And slowly and surely she was pulled into the world of that.
Yep.
And yeah. It doesn't take a whole lot. It doesn't take a whole lot. Like you said, it's that, I mean, even we talk about it on the show all the time, the want of confirmation of belief, that can take us to wild places as human beings, and to interesting acceptances in our own mind of behavior.
Oh yeah. I mean, like, well, a lot of people I know are tired of listening to me talk about slavery, so it's like give me a topic and I'll connect it to it somehow, right? But it's like the more of this world that you see, it's hard to not see it anymore. It's hard to pretend it isn't there. And I think what's happening is some people, their eyes sort of get open to it, and they see it for a second, and they're like, oh no, I can't look there. I don't want to think about where my X, Y, or Z comes from. It's hard to think about.
It really is.
Because sometimes, as a consumer, it's not your choice that came from slaves.
No.
Did you realize? Most of the cacao is picked by slaves. In America.
Most of the lithium in the world is mined by hand.
Through what do they call artisanal mines?
Yeah,
they're not industrial mines. They're artisanal. Oh, that sure sounds nice, doesn't it? That means it's done by hand.
And it also means that they're destroying somewhere beautiful.
Oh yeah,
and amazing
by hand with their children. As they throw
the
them on the pile.
artisanal spring, right like there. Yeah,
artisanal, man. Come on.
Yeah, and
what?
We don't, like you said, it is a seedy underbelly, and like we were saying in our conversation outside, the thing that I think most people are not ready to accept in their life and in their consciousness, Billy, is that slavery never stopped.
Never stopped.
Never stopped. Worse than it's ever been.
Right.
Worse, mainly because, at least when you're talking in the ancient world, things like that, where slavery was a common practice, like, there were laws that protected slaves. Like, they were considered a part of the household, things like that in most cultures that had slaves. And I am not a proponent of slavery, people, believe me. I'm just saying that, like, when you get to chattel slavery here in the United States, things like that, it was a pretty It stood out a lot because that's not the way that slaves were typically treated. And to know that, yeah, slavery still fully exists and that you were a part of that chain, that's a hard nut to swallow, man. That's a hard nut to swallow.
I mean, just look at our carceral system. I mean, look how many prisoners do we have that are being paid a fair wage for what's going on? No, these people they are all, if they're working, it's generally wage slavery at the very least, but that is slavery.
Yeah.
That is labor trafficking. And the numbers are so bad. I mean, I've done so much research on this recently. I have, as you know, we have a knowledge vault on PBJLearning.com. And that knowledge vault includes easy ways for you to access some of these topics. So we have categories and tags that are really easy to get to. And prison labor is something I highly recommend that you look up. Every article that is on there, I sourced from major news outlets and specialty groups that know what the heck it is that they're talking about. So inside of there, you can read everything. It's free. You don't have to register or anything like that to become a member to get any of this stuff. But it is absolutely fascinating finding out what is going on in America. So I pull all these articles off of the news and I get rid of all the ads and all the other junk, and it just brings the stories into our environment so that all these things are interconnected so you can easily access the things that are going to be related to it. But the prison slavery in America is just unbelievable. The amount of labor trafficking that we're putting people through, Starbucks uniforms, McDonald's uniforms, all kinds of things, call centers, etc. If those people are working, they should be paid a living wage, and they're not. And all of the other things that are happening to those people. I mean, they are essentially, if you think about it, they're in a company town. You got to pay whatever it costs to use the phone. You got to pay whatever it costs, to get the tablet to be able to look out. You got to pay what it costs at the, it's like, dude, that's not right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just not right. And it might as well be a company town.
There it is from the San Diego Union Tribune. On the front lines of some of the deadliest fires raging in California are inmates getting paid $2 a day.
And only up until a few years ago, they were ineligible to become firefighters when they got out.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's also,
despite their raging experience helping put out massive forest fires.
If you want to dig further into that, you're going to find out that there are prisoners that were kept in prison because they wanted them to keep taking care of the forest fires. And you're like, how can you do that? That doesn't seem right at all.
Absolutely.
And the thing is that all of these things that I'm bringing up or that we're discussing, you can research them yourself. Mm-hmm. I have them online so that you can easily find them. We are anything but alarmist. If you find something that seems alarmist on our site, it's usually because we put it there so that you would have it as a reference to what's going on in pop culture, and generally it's even labeled as such. The thing is that when I started finding out anything about human trafficking, I did not know where to go for information. Yeah, I didn't know what to trust. Everything seemed like it was just a giant mess. Some resources that were up were only up for a couple of months or a couple of years, and nobody's ever updated anything. So I'm determined that we're going to change that.
Absolutely. And what I love is hearing stories like I did earlier, where sheriffs are like, I need this to be able to train all of my officers. Like, right. And people in state legislatures are looking to you to bring this stuff to light. Yeah. So it's fantastic. And I just popped up while you were talking the Philadelphia Inquirer story about the judges. This was like back in 2000, the judges that were actively selling kids into for-profit facilities.
I saw that. It's unbelievable. Yeah. I mean, again, it's just another example of this is happening right in front of our eyes. Yep. If you just open them up and look, you're going to see that this is what's really happening. It's everywhere.
If you're an RSS user, folks, like myself, I mean, number one, if you are, you should be subscribed to our RSS feed.
Got that right. Same here. PBJLearning.com has RSS. Yes, it does.
And that's just it. What I was going to say is go follow FBI.gov. Follow their RSS.
Yeah.
Guaranteed you will see at least one human trafficking bust across the country a week. It's crazy. And I mean, to the point of like,
they have big ones,
like huge ones. There was the one a couple months ago in Atlanta where they like freed 200 kids.
So okay, so let's maybe that's one of them, and maybe it's not, but that's indicative of a large bust that they do. So they do large busts with large groups of people, and they coordinate, and they do amazing work to put an end to these people and these types of people. I want to caution anyone that is thinking that's actually helping people. We got to have a realistic conversation. These
that's
people
not even a dent. That's not even a dent.
You're right. And it's possible that a lot of those people were, sex workers by choice.
Sure.
And that does happen. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that.
I'm sorry.
I mean, I have my concerns about
200 trafficking victims, including 59 missing kids.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And that was August.
Next question is going to be
August.
Yeah, and the question really is, what happened to those people? There was not.
What now?
Well, I mean, like I'm on a large number of coalitions, and I read constantly things that are sent to our major groups, and we have problems sometimes having like one bed for somebody in a state.
Yeah,
and like they're talking about how they found 200 victims. I don't have the time to do it. Maybe one of these days I will, but I'd like to find out what happened with those victims.
Yeah,
how many of those were really sex trafficking, or were they potentially sex trafficking? You know what I'm saying? There's so many questions that need to be answered.
Yeah.
But it makes a heck of a headline, and then you don't find out what really happened. Did those people get help? What services did they get? Did they go back to their trafficker? Were they in situations? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
It's like this is just the beginning of what should be like a massive undertaking to find out what happened to those 200 people.
And I think that is some of what's happening right now.
I hope so,
Billy. Before we get into Trapped and everything else in the Appleseed program, let's talk about trafficking in the headlines and in the news right now. Because there has been some interesting articles happening. Number one, there was the huge bust of Andrew Tate. And like on human trafficking charges. We've never heard anything more of Ghislaine Maxwell.
I think they sealed her case for 100 years.
Something like that.
And I'm not even joking. I really believe that's what really happened.
Yeah. But what's interesting is the number of people, like for instance, Russell Brand right now, going through what he's going through. The conversation we were having earlier outside, he is highly connected to people like the royal family, and they are highly connected to people like Jimmy Savile, who for decades people were saying like he is a pedophile, he is trafficking children to stars, things like that. Right now, one of the people that is accusing Russell Brand was a teenager when things happened. Right now, we're looking at the case of the Sound of Freedom producer. I just brought up the Curious Realm group. Hey, folks, if you ever want to just find these things that we talk about, feel free to hop over to Facebook, follow the Curious Realm group, and just literally search the group.
It really is the place to be.
All the articles about the Sound of Freedom, and this goes back to a month or so ago, one of the producers apparently was involved with an underage trafficking victim.
That's not good.
It's not good. It's not good. Not when the movie is about anti-trafficking. And I have floated the concept. Billy, of this is just my conspiratorial mind going.
Well, before you say that, I'm going to say I don't know what this guy did or didn't do.
You've been following this case.
No, but this I don't have any idea if he did it. I mean,
no. There should be a whole bunch of allegedlys on this page as well.
This is all allegedly, right? I mean,
a whole bunch.
I hope he did not do anything.
Same.
And I hope that this isn't a smear campaign by somebody else that's just, you know what I'm saying? It's like, and there's so
Yes.
many levels to all these things that it's so difficult to really get to the truth. I hope that we get to the truth. And I hope the
we
truth
do.
that this guy is innocent. But who knows?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that sucks. That is not good for that show.
No, it's not good for the movie. It's especially not good for the cause.
Yeah, it's not good for the cause either.
And
Makes everybody look like a creep.
Especially with the fame that the movie was gathering, the traction that it was gathering, like it outperformed movies like Mission Impossible.
Oh, that movie should not have made that much money.
It should not have.
Should not have.
Especially coming out from an independent Christian studio.
Right.
And up against movies like that, it should like. Good God, Indiana Jones got buried by Batman. Like,
yeah.
You know? So,
Yeah.
so it's one of those, like, for the fact that it hit the rungs that it did, media-wise, was incredible. And it was doing such great, amazing things for the cause,
Right.
I believe, as far as people saying, wow, this is a legitimate thing.
Right.
Wow, like, I've heard about this, and now there's a movie about it. Wow, like, this is a real thing. But then this slamming the brakes on all of that, to me, it's one of those, I don't know, like I said, my conspiratorial brain immediately goes to,
well, it immediately
was all of this made so that it could come out in public and so that the cause could be discredited.
Oh, dude, there is no doubt that could have happened.
Because the
No
one thing
doubt.
I have said on this show since we were dudes and beer is you can be angry about those emails, all that you want from the Democratic Party, all the Pizzagate emails, everything else. The pizza parlor was fake. No worries.
That's correct.
However, there were a whole bunch of other allegations in there about human trafficking, things like that, that were not addressed and were never really addressed as like, well, that's not real.
Pizzagate is kind of one of those things that you could see as like a limited hangout, whereas
was-
like a lot of things around it were real enough, but that one thing wasn't. Except that the thing is that no, they really do order children like pizzas.
They do.
Just not
They do.
from that location, I would assume.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know,
But
it's
that
like
is a thing.
But
That
it makes
it is a thing.
But the fact that the pizza parlor was part of it, all of a sudden makes all of it sound crazy.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So it's like, so maybe this guy is put in as an investor so that later they can discredit the entire movement. Yeah, man, anything like that's possible. You know, there are
especially-
schemes that happen on the grand
especially
playfield.
with the names being named in things like Ghislaine Maxwell's case, in cases like oh God, who was the other movie producer? There was another one recently that was like huge that went down.
I can't recall.
I can't recall as well. But
Not Weinstein.
yes,
Okay, Weinstein.
yes. Yeah, like there and there were people like Emmanuel Lewis, or not Emmanuel Lewis, Gary Coleman, people like that who raised the alarm on this stuff years ago. Corey Feldman,
Yeah.
like,
And oh my gosh, if you talk to him,
he's
then
in town.
I know,
He's
but
in
if you
town.
talk to him, though, all
I'm
of a
gonna
sudden
be
now
gone.
you're going to be in the crazy world.
I
You know what
know.
I'm saying? So it's
I
like you can't
know.
talk to him. It's like going, why can't you talk to somebody and get their story? And why can't you believe them?
And that's just it, is that there have been people that have been sidelined on this topic in Hollywood and in upper rungs for a long time. We're like, no, they're a crazy person. They're a crazy person.
Okay, so
And I don't know. Things like this, once again, my conspiratorial mind immediately goes to, with all of that hitting the news,
it's
and
like
all
you're
of
thinking
these
that
big
things are
players.
getting more attention to it, more attention to it, more attention to it.
Man,
People are paying attention, and poof, now it's all your
the
crazy
number of college scientists that were not even cursorily connected, like deep connected to Jeffrey Epstein, Like people who like lead MIT labs, things like that. Like,
Right.
It was freaky. It was freaky.
Well, that dude was throwing money around, and he wasn't throwing his money around. He throwing somebody else's money around.
Well, and it's one of those, like, it reaches high. It reaches really, really, really high. And yeah, Pizzagate sounds like a crazy thing. It was really one of the seeds that begat the QAnon movement.
It really was. Yeah.
Things like that, which is like, once again, where people get caught up, is like it's tied with QAnon, stuff like that. Even we were talking outside, even Jim Caviezel from the movie is tied in with QAnon.
He is
and
definitely
things like that.
He's definitely tied into QAnon. And here's the thing, I'm not, God bless him, because
we live in America.
It's
you have the right to wake up and think anything you want.
Right. The thing is that
say anything.
Well, that's true.
I mean, you can, but there
are some limits, and there are definitely repercussions, no doubt. There's definitely repercussions. But I mean, as far as him, I mean, a lot of the things he says are verifiably true. Verifiably true.
Yeah.
And every so often he says something that's a little much. And it's like, okay, that probably would have been nice if you hadn't said that one thing. Because it's like it's too much.
Yeah.
The adrenochrome thing is the one that gets me. I mean, I have talked to people, and so far, no one I know has been able to prove in any way, shape, or form that actually is done and is effective. But the thing is that it doesn't matter if it's effective. It matters if somebody thinks it's effective.
Well, and
I don't know
now
if people
granted,
are doing all of those things to children.
Granted.
But oh my gosh, if people think that, I've worked at the state hospital. I know what happens when mentally ill people are left to their own cases.
Devices.
They will do things, and if you have power and you have freedom to do things, because you'll just get away with stuff. So I don't know what people are really doing. I haven't seen it myself, but who knows how much of that's
real. Granted, I want to do a whole adrenochrome episode, because there is that hypothesis out there. And don't get me wrong, I think that there's definitely
I got one guy I want to introduce you to for that.
Okay.
I would love for you to talk to him.
I would love to talk to him.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that after the show.
Yeah, we will.
But the idea that, and yes, there are some vampiric parts of society. There are some parts of society that, I'm not saying that like anybody's being killed in a satanic ritual to have their adrenochrome harvested from their adrenal.
Yep.
However, are they being trafficked and tortured in order to possibly draw that blood from them after they've been tortured, when it is heightened with adrenochrome and everything in it?
That's what I'm saying, is whether or not
that is a going hypothesis,
right?
For a
Whether
long
or
time.
not it actually would reverse your aging, okay, which is I think the big fantasy.
I
Whether or
don't-
not it did that, it doesn't
Yeah.
even matter,
Yeah,
because if
well-
they are torturing children, then that just has to stop.
Yes,
That's
yes.
all I'm saying.
Let's stop
just
the conversation
forget
there.
it. Yeah,
we don't
just
need to go
stop
down
about the crazy part. Let's
Well-
just stop children from being
Yeah,
tortured.
yeah.
Period. How about we start there?
Well, and I mean, definitely there's that old vampiric tradition of the fact of, yes, the drinking of the blood is what gives you immortality. This is more of the fact of there is no better high. You ain't going to get a better high than off of adrenochrome and off of somebody else's adrenochrome. Is apparently
That's the thing. Super fresh.
Yeah,
off-
yeah.
Who knows, man?
Once again,
Even that could be a placebo, for crying out loud. You know what? 30% of all drugs are like a placebo effect, right? So it's like,
wait a minute.
yeah,
Did you
totally.
give this kid sweet and low?
I know,
that
right?
doesn't taste like adrenochrome.
Who knows what's going on in those people's heads, man? If they're doing any, anyway.
Well,
Look, hey, I want to take a couple seconds to be serious,
Please.
just for a second.
Yes.
Because this topic, it could rapidly make somebody think that I'm like some crazy person, and
You
I
are
wanted to
not.
share with somebody. I wanted to share that. So I worked at the Austin State Hospital for almost a year, And I was there when we did intake on a young girl in her mid-20s who had been locked in a cage her entire life and only used for rituals. And I read all of her paperwork. I was absolutely fascinated by this. I talked to all of the people that did the intake to find out what happened. And apparently, her parents were using her in satanic rituals since she was born, and they kept her in a cage. And this was the first time that she had ever been out of their home. So it doesn't matter to me whether there is a heaven or hell or God or devil. What matters is that people are treating each other like that.
Well, what matters is that there are evil people.
That's right.
There
That
are
is
evil
evil.
people.
That is evil. And that evil infects people
Yes.
and makes them do it further.
Yeah.
So whether there's a good or evil thing going on, that's really happening, and that behavior is definitely evil. So I have a lot of people that are very concerned about, the good side losing to the bad side and the bad side doing certain things. And
Well,
this stuff is a cancer, man.
it is. It
It's
is.
a
And
cancer.
once again, even to see how it has like
It destroys economies.
this. I mean, the idea of the Sound of Freedom situation is a straight Ouroboros, man. Like it is the snake biting its own tail. It's crazy. Like it just it just numbs my mind. And once again,
And he's not the only one that has
No.
some accusation against him.
not the only one in the film production that does.
It's unbelievable,
There's a couple, and like we were talking about with Amy
Let me
out
ask
there.
you a question.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
How clean do you have to be? Like, I mean, like, can a movement be squashed like that by chopping off people, all the way through it? I mean, like, it's like, oh, this person got it.
Absolutely, by discrediting people.
This person sped in a school zone, and that person doesn't recycle.
Granted,
you know what I'm saying?
These,
It's like there could
these
be
accusations are a bit larger than speeding in a school zone.
I understand, but my point is, like, where
this person
is the
purchased
line?
drugs in a school zone.
That could be
That's
could be
a different
one.
story.
But did they
could
go
be,
to
and
prison
who knows?
for it and pay their debt to society? There's a million questions for this
That
thing.
doesn't
This is
change
bad.
the social image.
This is still
though.
bad. What's here? This is
Oh,
very
it's
bad.
horrifying.
That's bad.
It's horrifying.
I'm just saying there is a point at which you kind of got to go, are they just digging up something on everybody? Because everybody's got something in a closet.
Yeah, and like
I mean, these are bad things.
like my
They
wife
should not
Amy
be in a
was
closet
saying,
at all.
it,
It's bad.
it could be the fact that he got tied up in something like that. Come to find out later, that he is doing this to help clear his conscience, and that's why he got behind this movie.
I mean, I could make up a reason too, but it's like
who
I don't
knows?
know.
I don't.
have
And
any
once
idea.
again, there should be a lot of alleged
Yeah,
on
lots
these
of
headlines.
alleged.
A lot of alleged on these
Yep.
headlines.
No doubt about it.
We cannot be part of the parties, Billy, that convict from a story.
I don't want to do that at all.
We got to hear the facts of
That's
the
right.
case.
I do. That really is what it's all about. Staying calm in the middle of the big mess.
And that's just it, because
that
this
throws
is
everything.
Well, once you start digging into this, man, it is a hot tater of a mess. Is the only way to put it. Like it's all over the place. It blows my mind. Let's start getting into statistics, things like that, Billy.
Okay. So one of the most quoted statistics is that they believe that human trafficking is $150 billion a year profitable industry. And so that's money that's being taken out of the pockets of all of the people that are being trafficked worldwide. So as far as any real statistics, because this is it's illegal and it's covered up, and many people don't even know they're being trafficked or don't even know what trafficking is because they've been living in it for their entire lives. They don't even know how to estimate it. So they're just doing the best guesses they can based on the numbers that they can find. So everything can be off wildly, and some of the research that's done is limited in scope. It's limited in the amount of money that they had, and sometimes they're looking for the things that they're only looking for the things they know they're going to find. So it's so the statistics are not that great, but they show that there's over 20 million people in forced marriages. because that's also considered human trafficking if you're
Somebody benefited.
somebody
Especially
benefited.
if there was a dowry involved.
Yeah, that's right. And one of the things that another statistic about it is 88% of people that are trafficked report having seen a medical professional while they were being trafficked.
Yeah.
Another surprising statistic is the I always bogged down on statistics. I think it's over 60% of people that are being trafficked knew their trafficker
Yeah.
before they were trafficked. And I'm not sure the exact number, but somewhere around 40% of people are being trafficked by a family member. It's like, what is going on? And a lot of that it's called familial trafficking or interfamilial trafficking or whatever, but it basically means that you are being taken advantage of by somebody in your family, and that could be for labor. Like your family may just decide that you're just never going to get paid for working for your entire life, and that's just how it is. Or it could be for sex.
I thought I saw some hay that wasn't cut.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. There's some crazy stuff, but there are too many family members that are trafficking their children to pay for their drug habit that came from the OxyContin crisis.
Mm.
And so it's just like, our country is being hollowed out by this. It is affecting our citizens. It's a bad thing.
Yeah.
And the only answer to this is to prevent it. We have to get in front of this, and we have to teach people how to acknowledge that they have vulnerabilities that someone could take advantage of.
That's it. Yeah.
That, I think, if I could get anything across to somebody, it would be just acknowledge that you have vulnerabilities. Here are some examples. Hey, you're broke. You haven't paid your rent in 2 months. Almost anything looks like a good idea to make money.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, it's because I'm extra vulnerable, right? So it's like, if you can get people to think about that, like, oh, I'm online and I'm lonely. Wait a minute, now why am I clicking on all these weird ads and things like this? It's like, dude, you need to recognize and acknowledge that you have vulnerabilities.
Yes.
And it's like, and that's, as a parent, that's one of the things that you want to teach your children. It's like, teach your kids how to acknowledge and recognize that they have vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
And if you can do that, you're not programming, but you're teaching your kid how to think for themselves in these situations that they're going to encounter forever.
It's gonna happen.
24 hours a day on your kid's cell phone, they could be bashed by SMS messages with very nasty links.
I am trying to find, pardon me for being on my cell phone right now.
You're good.
You know that this is not a typical thing.
I don't know what I was thinking. I was wondering what SMS list or thing you were going to pull up.
Well,
Man, I got a bad one the other day.
I was actively looking because I take pictures of them every time I see them, but I was looking for the last human trafficking sign I saw. Which was not that long ago, where I was at a hotel and saw it in the bathroom. And you're starting to see them more and more, where it's like, hey, look out for this.
It is shocking to hear the number of persons with lived experience that will tell you that they never had anybody tell them how to get help. They never even asked them, "Are you okay?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, how is that even possible? And they're like, yeah, just for years. People would just pretend like these things weren't happening right in front of them, and they would just ignore it. I was just like, man. And so they said when they see those stickers that just says, hey, by the way, do you need help? They're like, oh my God, it was the first time I've ever thought about anything. I'm like, you want to talk about something that's effective? It's a sticker?
I am trying to remember who it was. Was it QT that I just saw? There was almost like a travel plaza type place. It's all around the country.
Yeah, I know QT.
That actually has like a safe room where you go up.
Right.
You go up with your stuff to purchase, and if you're being trafficked, you let them know, and they ain't telling anybody where you're at until the cops get there. The only person that's going to be walking in that room is a police officer. And it's like, hell yes. Awesome.
That does sound just crazy.
It sounds awesome though to me.
Yeah,
The
it does.
fact that,
It does
like,
sound awesome. I think there's a few places that also take babies too. There's they have like a safe space, so they're like they will accept a kid. But yeah, that's great. I mean, that's those giant travel plazas are dangerous,
well,
man.
You were just saying that who was it that was wanting to train their truckers?
Let's see. So right now, what's going on? The state of Texas has passed a law saying that if you are going to get if you're going to start doing rideshare, to get onto their system, you have to have some human trafficking training. So they just approved a course, and so we're actually working on that, and we've been talking with someone that works with the Department of Transportation who is interested in building some online courses to do, possibly inspections and teach people how to inspect vehicles, because apparently their industry is enormous, and they will also need all of this human trafficking training, which we can just throw in there. But the thing is that it's these guys are the eyes and ears of our nation.
Yeah.
He tells me, and I'm sure this number is wrong, but it's like there's 9 million truckers in the U.S. And whoever happens to be typing, if you're online right now, tell us the answer. How many truckers are in the United States?
I'm on Google right now, man. Let me look it up.
Here we go. So the other interesting thing was he said that there are also a number of independent trucking companies, right? So he said, how many independent trucking companies do you think there are in America?
3.5 million truckers as of 2021.
3.5 truckers.
3.5 million.
3.5 million.
Yeah.
I think the number that he's talking about the number of people that are in the industry. But I'm going to find out because, that number is probably significantly different.
This is probably just OTRs, not people doing local routes, things like that.
Oh, yeah, because when we're talking about the trucking industry, we're talking about everybody.
Yeah.
Even a local florist that drives
you're even
a truck.
talking about your local UPS guy.
Yeah, anybody. So, I think... Well, you see, that'd be a great thing for somebody to tell us, because I'd love to know why one person says...
Why wouldn't you want your local UPS guy to be able to spot a trafficking victim?
Heck yeah, man.
Guess who's probably answering the door for the UPS guy?
Well, yeah.
Because that's the strange thing, is that, and you can ask people like Chung Kim, folks. She is perfectly available online, and an amazing person. But, nobody questioned. People came to the door. She answered the door. She wasn't fearful of that. It was just a common thing, and that's just it. That's I think what the misnomer in people's head is, Billy, is that we are expecting somebody with a chain and a dog collar around them and a mask on or something like that.
Right.
We're expecting somebody in a cage.
Yeah, that's right.
Like that young lady that you worked with, and that's not the case.
No, that is
these
the
kids
super
go to
rarity.
school.
Yeah,
that's
right.
They go to school. This is a commonplace thing in their life so much that it is now normalized to them.
Yeah, these children, some of them are trafficked on their way home from school, and that's what they do on their way home from school, is they have a neighbor that takes advantage of them or sells them at their house. There's all kinds of ways that this works out, but it is not, like you said, it's not a cage that is so rare it's unbelievable, but it does happen. And
it's not like you're getting potato sacked on the street. It's not like somebody's coming up at the playground and snatching your kid in a van and taking off, and now they're in a human trafficking. They blackmail you. They have something on you. They know something about you. You'll do anything to get them to not tell somebody. It's typical blackmail. I will give 2 examples from my life. One of them involves my son. We were talking earlier, he plays Minecraft, things like that on his tablet. He's 6.
Right.
All the parental locks are on, things like that. But there was one game that had installed at one point that we installed with him, that nowhere on it did it say it was cooperative or community or anything like that. And the boy narrates while he plays. Seriously, I'm about to make him a digital avatar and just start recording it and posting it. So we thought it was that. And then he answered a question. And he answered another question.
Uh-oh.
And he was like, oh, I live in Austin. And I was like, yo, 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 let me see that thing, son. And yeah, it was like a chat going on.
Verbal chat too?
Yeah.
Wow.
Like with my 6-year-old son. This was just before your last appearance on this show.
Wow.
Man.
Violation.
So it was like, okay,
I'm
there
sorry
goes that
happened to
game.
you
But
guys.
there
Yeah,
goes
no
no, I'm not. I'm sorry the kid can't play the game.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for that because he was thoroughly enjoying the game.
I just don't understand why there isn't a parental lock on that. I mean, that just doesn't make sense to me.
Oh, no, I'm sure that there is.
Okay.
It was just the fact of nowhere in the description of the game did it say anything about community chat, be a part of a team, anything like that.
Yeah, you would have steered away
so
from that.
We would have never been installed, you know? Like, we have all parental locks on his tablet. Like, so there was that. And then there was a situation with my niece many years ago, like 2012, where I was on social media. She'd had a couple friends. She had one friend commit suicide, one die in a car accident.
My God.
From drunk driving. Another one attempt suicide. It was a bad year for her. As like her sophomore year in high school. And she posted something on social media about being down or something like that, about missing her friend. And this dude popped up whose comment just didn't seem right. Like, he was about my age, something like that. And it was just very, like, as someone who's been a youth minister, someone who's dealt with parents, things like that. At the time, I wasn't a parent. But still, my alarm went off of, like, parents don't talk to kids like this in a moment like that.
Right.
Like,
Your spider sense went off. Heck
yeah, and I was like, hey, Randy, like, you should go check out your daughter's Facebook profile. Like, there's this dude on there that is really asking her to, like, hey, yeah, you know, message me. Feel free to give me a call on Facebook Messenger if you want. Like, we can talk and that kind of stuff. And it's like, I don't know any parent that would
anybody
be
trying
like,
to get you off of that platform, that's a dead giveaway.
Yeah. So I sent it to my brother, and he started digging, and sure enough, this dude was like 28, 29 years old, didn't have any friends that were over the age of 20. They were all in the 16 to 19 range. Ugh. Most of them ladies. Things like that. And he was like, hey, bud, and sent him a screenshot. And was like, I see you.
Right.
You need to let this fish go. Like,
good job.
I'm telling you right now, I will contact the authorities. And we never saw the dude again.
That's
nothing
good.
Like that. But it was one of those, like, that was my first experience where it was like, wow, it happens just that fast. Just that fast. And it is a sociopathic mentality.
I helped a young woman put up her LinkedIn profile, and like within moments of her putting her picture up there, she was getting hit on by some dude who was clearly her elder.
Yeah.
And I had to write the guy myself and just be like, dude, what are you thinking? You know, and he backed off. Yeah. But I was like, that was just so weird.
Well,
and it wasn't like one of those spammy or scam faces, you know. It was like, this is like a real person. I was like, ugh, creepy.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All the time. The time. And that's just it. Like, it's pervasive. It's pervasive. And you can't keep a track of all of it. You can't.
No. I mean, I wish I had, I don't have all the stats like right off the top of my head, but the amount of nudes and requests for nudes that's happening for children and for people that they don't even know anything about, and they even say that they think that are adults is crazy. It's like it's way over 50%, you know, that these kids are getting these things constantly.
Yeah.
And you're just like, I mean, what the hell?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's just it. Like, you had your own experience with your children, which is what led you to build Trapped.
Yeah.
Let's get into the software. Let's get into helping build empathy through VR, because not many people might be familiar with that concept, or how VR can actually help trigger the emotive centers of the brain.
Yeah, you're right about that. You know, I actually got into this field because we had a personal experience, as you were saying. We I was working on a project for a friend of mine, and we had a landline going to the house. And so he would call the landline, and I would get the phone would get given to me, and sometimes he called the cell phone. But one time, so my boss was calling me, but sometimes he talked to the kids because he had known us, known them for a long time, and turned out that this guy was a sex predator, and we blocked him, and we did everything we could to try to teach the kid. I mean, I don't want to go into all the details. I mean,
No,
it's just
no.
it's pretty, it's not good. But I realized that the thing that was happening was it was called what was happening is he was grooming my children, and what that is a slow psychological, turn towards normalcy of talking about sex, and then
Yeah.
eventually possibly using that person, sexually, or even all the way up to and including human trafficking. So the whole thing was that um, I didn't understand how to teach the kids anything about what grooming was and how that felt. And we looked at a bunch of movies and read some books and tried the best we could and did some role playing and things like that. But there really wasn't a way to educate people about grooming. And so when I got into working in VR, as you said, VR has the ability to help you be in somebody else's shoes so you can experience something from their perspective, which gives you the ability to see the world from their viewpoint.
Yep.
And as I started learning more about grooming and how the psychology works and what trauma bonding was all about and how people's vulnerabilities are being taken advantage of, as I was doing interviews of people all across the United States, it turned out that when somebody is trauma bonded to a controller or trafficker, they see the world differently than we do. So when you see a cell phone, you think, "Oh, that cell phone means go get some help." To them, that cell phone represents a ball and chain because they have to keep that cell phone with them all the time because if their trafficker texts them, they have to be able to text them immediately backwards or back to them. They have to take pictures of themselves to post online so that they're doing their own they're doing all their own advertising on their social media. It is ridiculous how different the world looks to a trafficking victim versus what it looks like to us. In fact, there's even a term for it. They say that they're in the game or the life, and we are in the square world. So we're all squares. And
Yeah.
really, what's happening is when they see the police, they won't go ask for help. They won't. They will not go out the front door. And you're thinking, why won't you go out the front door? And it's like, oh, it's because this guy's going to beat me, And so it's like what we do in this VR experience to try to get somebody to actually have an emotional experience a uh, with a situation is we provide them this young woman. We provide an opportunity to spend time with this young woman named Lisa, who she meets a boy online. Well, she thinks it's a boy, but really it's a professional predator who is out to traffic her, and he recognizes all of her vulnerabilities that she's busy posting online. My parents are divorced. My mom's never home. I don't get any attention. Nobody loves me. Etc. Now, all these things that are basically saying, "Hey, I just need some attention, and I'll do anything you want." And that's exactly what winds up happening. This guy comes in, convinces her that he loves him, tricks her into sneaking out with him, and then eventually tricks her into selling herself for sex. And all the while psychologically convincing her that he loves her and that she's doing all of that for him to help them and their relationship, which is completely psychotic, but it is what happens to people. And so this experience takes about 20 minutes, and then once you understand and you have this connection to the topic, you are actually more interested in trying to do something and learn something about the topic. So that's what we're proud to say that we've been doing this for 7 years now, 6 years. So I'm gonna go with 6 years, and
Wow.
we're in 10 states now. We finally hit our 10th state this month.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah,
So many,
I'm
like I've said so many times, I've loved watching the journey of this technology,
yeah.
watching the
Thank you.
journey of this model of education. Because once again, No, and I've sat through educator, like I told you about the Veritas training, things like that happen for the Catholic Church whenever you're a volunteer, that
Right.
kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I've sat through numerous trainings about ethics with kids, things like that. Never really a topic that was broached. Never really something that was brought up whenever I was being trained to be in a classroom with children.
Right.
Things like that. I mean, we learned to spot signs of somebody who might be emotionally abused or something like that, but not on this scale.
Yeah, so my wife, she has a bad history of child abuse, and so from her perspective, she's like, when she was a kid, she felt like she never saw anything that said anything about child abuse. So it didn't feel like there were big posters everywhere saying anything about that.
Yeah.
But eventually there were some, and now you see them a little more often. And it's kind of how it feels like with human trafficking. It's like that wasn't even on the radar at all till till the year 2000 when they put it into law. So when all of a sudden the term human trafficking became the word that people used because of the TVPA. So it's like, yeah, when we were kids, nobody even thought about calling it this stuff. I mean, I guess they would have had to been going out on a limb and calling it slavery.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If they can even convince somebody it's real.
Or just abduction.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Which is what most of it fell under legally, was abduction, that kind of stuff. Or kidnapping,
But
kidnapping
the
via
labor
coercion.
trafficking, it's like going, well,
But-
what was that considered before?
Yeah.
I should probably know the answer to that question. I'm going to go find out.
Well, and once again, even though I sat through trainings and watched videos and things like that, this is a thick, meaty topic and not a comfortable one to talk about. It's not like it's not like
serious.
here's what you do, here's what you don't do. Like most of the trainings that you go to like that. Like,
Right.
Even the topic itself is a good 15, 20 minutes before you can even get into it. Just introducing the idea of the topic.
Right.
So trying to get somebody in 20 minutes to, understand what trafficking is.
Right.
Exactly what trafficking is. And to be able to give them that empathetic experience where it's like, wow, I want to know more.
Yeah.
Because that's the main thing, is not just walking away with, well, wow, that's a thing, but there's nothing I can do about it. To have them walking away and wanting to know more, wanting to go through training is what's incredible.
We've been incredibly blessed to be at a large number of public events where we get to train the public, and we have families come up, and the parents and the kid will all go through the VR experience, and like we had one mom who would come through, she came through, and she said, yeah, I'm interested to learn more about this topic. I don't really know anything about it. I don't think this could possibly be happening to us. And we're like, that's cool, and so she puts the headset on, and she gets halfway through it, and she is just crying and crying, and she's like, this is happening in my house. And I'm like, what? So she runs away. Actually, she didn't say this was happening in her house. She ran away crying and came back and said, I want to finish this thing. And we're like, what's going on? She says, well, I didn't think this could possibly have anything to do with me, but I realized that my daughter is sneaking out at night, and she's hanging out with people that I don't know who they are, and I didn't realize that it could potentially be this bad.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm not spending enough time with my daughter. I've got 3 jobs. I need to quit one of my jobs and get to know who my daughter is.
Yeah.
And then she went through the rest of the experience. Had to stop again because she got too emotional, but she went through a third time. She came back and finished the whole thing. And she came back the next year and told us that she had made those changes in her life.
Wow. Incredible.
I mean, even if it's one person that it helped,
yeah,
even if it's
absolutely.
just that one person, I feel like we're doing the right thing here.
Well, let's get into your seed program a little bit, because that's the latest thing, and it's such an incredible success. I've loved seeing you travel across the country, going to all of these licensees and being able to put a box in their hands.
Yeah, it's really interesting because the topic is, as my friend Dallas Snell says, radioactive. You know, people are just not interested in it.
Yeah.
But and the technology is also a little bit scary to people because they don't know what virtual reality is, so they're a little nervous about it. But once someone tries this, they see that this has enormous benefits, because you're getting 20 minutes nonstop to spend with a person with lived experience. I mean, it's all, of course, it's a story, but it's based on real events and real situations. But they're getting to be like directly interacting with them, and even if it's nothing else, they are in a completely enclosed environment, and there are no physical distractions from them. There's no little squirrels running in front of them. They're not thinking about their phone, getting a text. You have 20 completely immersive minutes with this learner, and they absorb this complicated material at their own pace.
That's what's epic.
I never thought about that until until we had done this, and then I started taking a couple of extra courses, some online classes. I was like, oh, we need to learn how to make an online course. So I started experimenting with them, and I'm like, it's like they just show video after video of just horrible fact after horrible fact after horrible fact, and just like, oh my gosh,
no, here's a voiced over PowerPoint.
But it's too much.
Yes,
it's coming at you, and it's too much.
Well, the thing is, and this is just from my time as a teacher, Billy.
Right.
There are auditory learners, there's visual learners, there's tactile learners.
Right.
And they all cross over. You know, I am an auditory tactile learner. If I can, I can be doing something and hear other things and absorb that information.
Yep.
But for me, it's the tactile part. If I can touch it and do it,
right,
I'll learn it 3 times faster. There are people out there who learn faster from a book and from diagrams and from a PowerPoint and absorb the information faster that way.
Yeah, that's right.
And yeah, you know, most people don't realize if you go to a good retreat, if you go to a good training event, you're going to get a break every 25 minutes. Because that's basically the chunklet that your brain operates in before it needs to shift gears.
Yeah, I see that.
Before you need to switch activities. Okay, everybody, let's break up into group and let's talk about that for 10 minutes. And then you come back and you decompress that. And then you take a break. And then you come back and you have an activity that reinforces what you just talked about.
Right.
Things like that, so that you are activating everybody's learning center. Everybody's getting to learn. And the problem is, there's a huge part that you ain't going to learn from any PowerPoint. The only way you're going to learn it is this. The only way you're going to learn it is being there or having the experience of talking with experiencers.
Right. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. And one of the things that I launched on this whole, I've taken probably 200 courses online and in person, and webinars and seminars and events and conferences and individual conversations with people. And almost without fail, the best presentations start with a way to get people to care about the topic.
That's right.
Whether it's a video or if a series of special presentations or a person with lived experience telling you their story, whatever it is, you have to have that emotional connection. And when that emotional connection is made genuinely, people learn. At least that's been my experience, and that's what I've seen at conferences. So it's like, this gives you the best opportunity, I think, to have an emotional connection, and it's with someone that's not even real. Well, you know what I'm saying? It's like you're not pulling their energy out, and they're not having to wear themselves out day after day, explaining their same story over and over and over again. You know?
Well, yeah, which can be traumatic in and of itself. Not that it doesn't help them, but it's still traumatic to relive it every time that you relive it, and understanding that, but also the fact that, once again, having seen this from the days of you needing 3-4 tripods for cameras to track people, and the first 5 minutes of an experience being, here's how you work the device. It's no longer that.
Right, that's right.
It's no longer, oh, how do I interact? How do I touch an object? You have now gotten it to the point of you look at the object and it tells you the story. It's now to the point of just being side-loaded on a device. There's no more like, hey, how do I get that? How do I set up a VR system? How do I do all of that to be able to do it?
It's unbelievable how far the technology has come, and now you and I have talked about this. Now the Quest 1 is actually when people break their headsets or the handsets, they don't replace them. So now I can get those at an incredibly reasonable price to make it so that it's so much more affordable for everyone to be able to get these things. So what we do is we sell our software license to people. So we have 3 different tiers. We have a $5,000 tier if you're a public school or a small nonprofit. We charge $10,000 a year if you are a larger nonprofit or a community college, and if you are a job training, or if you are
corporation.
If you're a corporation, or you do job training, or you're a university, it's $20,000 a year. And all of those come with support. All of those come with discounts on new modules. They come with upgrades. They come with advancement to the next hardware set if we move to another hardware set. So you're not buying something that's going to expire. You're getting something that has support.
Yeah, precisely.
And not only do we have support, but we also have licensees in 10 different states, and all those licensees have ideas about how they use the products. We provide the VR software. We help you get the headsets, and then we have online courses as well. And so all of these things, they're packages to make it so that it's easy for you to train your community. I really don't know how to make it any easier to be able to provide this level of training. I mean, like having a person with lived experience, in the room with you constantly. You just turn on and you're like, look, let me introduce you to Lisa. I mean, that's unbelievable. I mean, I thought that that $5,000 was a lot to charge until I started looking at how much people will charge to go speak for 45 minutes and not even let you film them.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I mean, people are paying up to $10,000, and we're providing a resource that they can use forever.
Yeah. Yeah, precisely. And the courses that y'all are doing
your staff,
at PBJ
train your
Learning,
community, train your students, train your parents, train them all.
It's fantastic. It's been amazing to sideline witness this journey of yours of just envisioning a product, building a product that does something as amazing and visionary as this, Billy.
We're
and to see it develop to the point that it is now,
dude. There's so many exciting things going on, and I don't like to tell people things that are not going to come true. But we've been working with Purdue University for a year now, and we are starting to see some real fruit from that effort. We are working with their game design students on some new products, and I can't give any of the details out about them, but whether or not they get finished, whether or not they are perfect, whether or not they get released as finished products, it really doesn't matter, because I'm getting a chance to help these kids understand this topic better while they're making game products.
Yeah.
And
yeah, the open source design thing that you've done is fantastic. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, I don't.
Do you work with Hoft?
No, I do not.
You don't?
Mm-mm.
You know them, right?
No, I do not.
Town?
No, I do
I'll
not.
get you in touch with Maya Andreessen.
Okay, let's do it.
She's great. I interviewed them on Talking Sound years ago.
Okay.
But Hoft Game Institute here in town.
Sweet, great.
So yeah, this
we're
would be.
We're actually looking for a group that would be good to be a licensee. They might be, or anybody really that's out there.
Yeah.
If you're a group that's interested in our VR product, and you think I will train with this, call me, find me, get on reefcares.org and find me, because I am not going to let cash be the problem to make this this happen for you. That's not going to be the problem. If you're interested in this, show us that you're interested, and we will find a way to get the money together to make this happen. We're so lucky to have so many people that are out there that are using this. We're working with one Native American group as a licensee and a couple of other ones as future licensees, and we want to be able to build custom experiences for them. We need to build something that is culturally relevant. It takes into account their history, their heritage, their religion, their background, their heroes, their belief systems, because they're all different and they're different than ours, and that's all fine. But if we can make these VR experiences match their experiences, it will have a much greater impact.
Absolutely.
And I've spoken to people that are doing a lot of work on the reservations, and what they say is that there is a lot of illiteracy on these people's land, and the parents are not even embarrassed by it, and the kids are okay with it too. And it's obviously that's an embarrassment for any nation to have their children not be interested in having any literacy, but the people that are trying to give people information about human trafficking prevention, their stuff is in writing.
Yeah.
And so they're like, here's all the things you need to look out for. And these kids are like, I can't even read this. And I'm like, oh my gosh, how are we failing these children? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like,
because at least with this, yes, there's a visual prompt on screen, but it's also telling you the story.
Yeah, that's right. You're going to hear the story. If you can understand
I know I didn't
English,
have the audio playing, folks, but there's audio.
Yeah.
It's not just a visual
experience. She does talk
experience.
too. Yeah, she talks too. But yeah, that's the thing about it, is that we need to be able to connect with people in the most visceral way possible, and if we can tell a story that resonates with them, that's relevant to where they are too, we're going to have a better chance. Now, I thought there would be some pushback from these Native American groups, because this is not about a Native American kid, and they're like, look, we are trying everything we can to stop our missing and murdered Indigenous women from continuing to be disappeared. There is a tragedy.
It's an epidemic.
It's
horrifying.
Yeah. It is so bad. People are not even being reported to the police. I mean, like, I don't even want to. The details are just horrendous, and so they are in such a state that they're like, look, this program works. We need something that teaches people the basics.
Absolutely.
And that's what this does in spades. So I feel good about working with them with what we have now, but I want to make those custom things. And it takes a while for people to understand what this is and see the benefit, and then it'll take time, and eventually those people are going to want those products and they're going to see the benefit of them.
Yeah.
But it's not the same thing as just being able to hire, a lady for $20 to come in and do a slideshow because you trust her. It's like, no, this is like, we put significant work into this to make sure that it's right. We update this. We're actually in the process of updating the script right now based on feedback from some of our licensees. So it's like, it's a living product. This is not a, fire and forget kind of thing. And we have a labor trafficking one that we're doing right now too.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited about that.
So am I. So am I.
I cannot wait to show that to you.
It's awesome.
I'm hoping that maybe some of those Purdue kids can help me with that.
I'm so entirely excited for everything on the horizon for you guys. It's been, once again, great to sideline watch this thing come to life.
Chris, I want
in the way that it is.
I want to give you this Appleseed box and headset, and you can keep it forever.
Thank you.
Or you can take it around and show it to everybody, or take it to your kid's school, or just have it sitting on the thing, because you have done so much for us, and you have been such a huge inspiration. The truth is that, and that there was a really dark time when COVID happened, and I was like, what the hell is going on? I don't know what I'm going to do.
Man,
I was messed up.
But
I didn't acknowledge it as much.
You fought through and you came out on top. I don't think without COVID, you would have had any of the time to work with David Deeds in the way that you did with PBJ Learning.
Yeah, you're right.
Develop this to the point that it is. That all was rooted in COVID time, my man.
Yeah,
every bit of it.
Yeah,
just as a friend and watching you go through this, like, much like myself, where we had time. Like, we didn't do video, we didn't do things on this scale before COVID. COVID gave me the time to be like, okay, well, I've been wanting to do this. How do I do it? I got nothing but time to figure it out now.
I'll tell you, one of the things about COVID that I learned was there's a lot of things that I thought I was going to do if I had the time. I just realized, I was like, you know what? I've just realized that that project is never going to get completed. I'm
Yeah.
not interested in it. And so
Yeah.
then I've been putting my time into the things I'm actually
And
interested in.
look at the fruit of
Yeah.
of that time.
I learned
Of that time.
I learned how to make music videos because I wanted to make a music video out of my band, and so I learned Premiere, and I spent a lot of time in Premiere.
Yes, you did.
And then that resulted in, oh my gosh, I think I could make some actually
I
halfway
think I
decent
could-
entertainment. Yeah,
And I think I could make an online course.
yeah, I think I can do it. Yeah.
So and that's what's great is to see you guys produce all of this yourself, to see you
It's
just
happening.
hand spin the dream. It's beautiful and it's amazing and it's such a great mission. I'm glad to
Thank
be
you.
able to help in the ways that I can help. Things like that. How can people help? How can they sponsor an apple seed for their school? How
That's a
can
great
they
idea.
how can they if they're a PTA member, how can they, get a license for the district or for their school, something like that?
I love it. Those
Let's
are all
figure
great
that out
ideas.
for people.
So the first thing is, if you are interested in our VR product and or our online course, contact me. Billy at pbjlearning.com or Billy at reefcares.org. My phone number is 512-521-8874. I'm at reefcares.org, pbjlearning.com. If you type my name into the internet, if you type in virtual reality human trafficking, you will find us. But reach out. I will find a way to help you no matter what it is. So let's start there. But let's get more serious. The first thing to do if you're interested in our VR program is go to reefcares.org, and I want you to take a look at the videos on the front page. So on the home thing where you're looking. So just go what I want you to do is go to the home page and then just start watching the videos from the top down. And when you get down to the bottom, I want you to click join our Appleseed program and learn how to do it. And inside there, you're going to find out all of the things that you're going to get. You're going to find out that you're going to get priority support. You're going to get upgrades. You're going to get language upgrades. You're going to get additional VR headset support whenever it comes out. You're going to get discounts on new modules. You're going to become a member of a large online community of users. Everybody that's using the Knowledge Vault, everybody that's up on the Preventucation live show. We do every Thursday night. We do Prevention Cohort live video, and that video is usually shared with everybody, so you can actually see special behind the scenes content. We answer questions from our licensees. Sometimes we spend time with licensees. I go through our online course. Basically, I try to break down all of these tools so that you, as a licensee, will have the absolute best service that there is. Yeah, reefcares.org is the place to go. Take a look. The prices are on there. If you have any questions, contact me. I am available, and I am not going to let cost or anything that you think is a pushback, whatever you think it is, I'm going to try to help you get around it.
Yep.
I'll send you a box, and you will have the chance to.
And if you can't afford an apple seed, you feel free to contact Curious Realm. We'll make sure to sponsor one for you.
I'll listen to that. You can't beat that. You see what I'm saying?
I am all about getting this technology into people's hands and being able to try to help people understand that this is not a problem in India. This is not a problem in Africa. This is not a problem in the Pan-Asian countries. It is. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
We comprise 5% of the world's human trafficking. Right here. 5% of it happens in your backyard. It happens at your kid's school. It happens at your church every Sunday.
It is absolutely crazy how many people are being cyberbullied and sextorted, and it's just unbelievable. And I think when people start seeing just what's going on with that, how dangerous it is to leave their kids online unsupervised, I think if once people start waking up to that kind of stuff, they're gonna see they need to get educated. I mean, we have an online course that we created, and I really see that as like the first aid for anybody that goes on the internet. You need to take this first aid course, which is basically how to acknowledge your own vulnerabilities. Would be what I would call it.
Yeah.
It's like, but it covers everything you need to know about human trafficking, from the definition to proper responses. But along the way, what you're going to learn is how to keep yourself safe.
Absolutely.
In every circumstance.
Absolutely. Billy, thank you so much as always for your time, bud.
You got it.
Love having you here.
I love it too.
Love talking about this topic because it's a passion topic for me. It's one that like when I found you and started looking into this, like it just it destroyed me inside to see how prevalent it is. And once I started following the blotters and seeing it like every week, that's when it was like wow.
And it just gets uglier and uglier.
Yeah.
I mean, I when I go to conferences, a lot of people need to tell me their stories because they know I will believe them. And boy, man, vicarious trauma, dude. There's some scary stuff.
I have one. I have one that is still there. There have been 2 interviews. One that hit the trash can will never ever air, ever. It'll never air because of the bullying that happened to somebody live at a show. So I will never air that person's message.
Gotcha.
Ever. Sorry, Pastor.
Sorry, not sorry. See ya. 86th.
But there is one that I've still got a couple people looking at from a friend of ours, where they were trafficked by somebody pretty high up, by their claims. It's an incredible interview. I've still got it, and I'm still vetting it.
There's a certain percentage of
because
people...
if I put it out there, it's a huge tater.
It's a big one.
Like a 45th degree tater. It's huge.
I don't know what level of Devo I have to have that kind of a tater, but
it's huge.
Wow.
It shows just how high up this stuff goes.
Well, I mean,
who
the
this
thing
person is who's accused.
There are people that are perverts at a certain percentage of the population, and some of those people are rich.
Yeah.
And powerful. And that's just how it is. And so most of them are really good, and some people get caught.
Yep. Man.
And some people have already been caught, but other people are holding it over their heads so that they can expose it whenever they want to.
That's right.
It's crazy the amount of stuff that's going on out there.
Yep. Billy, thanks as
Appreciate
always,
it.
bud.
You got it.
While you are online checking out everything from Radical Empathy Education Foundation, while you were checking out all the amazing work from PBJ Learning, everybody make sure to stop on by Curious Realm. CuriousRealm.com is where you can find all the episodes. That is where you can like, follow, subscribe, all that kind of good stuff. Stay tuned through these commercial breaks. We will be right back with our good friend Mike Turber from 5x5 News. We will be discussing the first UAP report from the new NASA independent study group, what the actual implications of it are, because believe it or not, community, there's some great stuff that came out of this. I know a bunch of people are poo-pooing, but we will get into the importance of what this first findings mean, as well as some of the hubbub going on with Jaime Maussan and the possible literal grave robbing that he has admitted to by just presenting these Peruvian mummies that were taken out of the country without the country ever knowing it.
And you're also going to cover what we didn't get to see because of all that stuff.
Exactly.
What was
so
not on.
That's right. We'll be getting into that and so much more with our good friend Mike Turber right after this, folks. With the rise in attention to the health benefits of cannabis and cannabinoids, including CBD, True Hemp Science has become one of the premier providers of full-spectrum CBD and CBD-related products. Using a proprietary spagyric process, True Hemp Science extracts maximum benefit from the whole hemp plant. Buds, leaves, stems, seeds, even roots. Every part of the plant is used and then reused to formulate a rich, complex profile of CBD, CBD derivatives, and terpenes guaranteed to provide the relief and benefits you need daily. Visit TrueHempScience.com to experience the best CBD oils, edibles, and topicals on the market today. And use code CURIOUS7 to save 7% off your entire purchase of $50 or more and get 2 25 milligram CBD cookies or brownies free. That website again is TrueHempScience.com and the code is CURIOUS7. The Curious Realm Podcast is your source for the latest and greatest news and events in the world of the paranormal, esoteric, and forbidden knowledge. And there's no better way to spark the conversation than with items from the Curious Realm store. Choose from fan favorites like hoodies, mouse pads, coffee mugs, and more. Buy books and items from your favorite Curious Realm guests. Get your hands on the latest gear for paranormal investigations and experiments we discuss on the show. Open your web browser and stop on by the Curious Realm store at curiousrealm.com/store to buy the latest Curious Realm wear and out-of-this-world gifts for yourself, your family, or a mind that you want to open. That website again is curiousrealm.com/store. Have you considered starting a podcast? Looking for a way to make your business a voice of authority in an industry? Then Podcast Cadet is the solution for you. Whether starting a podcast for yourself, your brand, business, school, church, or just plain fun, Podcast Cadet is here to help you navigate the waters of the podcast industry. Specializing in one-on-one consultation and training with industry professionals in fields ranging from podcast technology and editing to distribution, monetization, and even social media strategies. Podcast Cadet tailors their services to the specific needs of you and your podcast. Do you already have a podcast and trying to find ways to engage and grow your audience? Sign up for your Podcast Cadet audit today and let us help you explore new and exciting ways to leverage your content and elevate your podcast brand to whole new levels. From consultational workshops to affordable podcast production and maintenance packages, Podcast Cadet is your one-stop shop for everything podcast related on the internet. Visit podcastcadet.com today to sign up for your consultation or training and use code CURIOUS20 to save 20% off your entire purchase. That website again is podcastcadet.com. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back from that commercial break. Thank you so much to all of our sponsors, especially WebWorks Wireless. They are your source for credit-free, unlimited, no-throttling internet. We put out tons of content this last month, and all of it was streamed to our website through WebWorks Wireless. So stop on by, check them out, folks. WebWorksWireless.com is the website. While you are online checking out the website, you can also, of course, go to YouTube and follow our good guest for this segment, Mr. Mike Turber of 5x5 News. You can also stop by and check out the Curious Realm. We have tons of new playlists. Our new playlist that we'll be playing from tonight is the UFO, UAP, and Declassified Government Panels playlist. Tons of stuff on there, including like all of the House hearings on UFOs, the coronavirus select committees, the origin probe that happened, the hush money probe about the origin of coronavirus that happened, all kinds of things. So stop on by and subscribe to The Curious Realm on YouTube, folks. You can get the latest, greatest. We will be, of course, playing tonight from the amazing, I say amazing. It was not huge. It was not groundbreaking, folks. It was a press conference to say we have released our first study, and we do, of course, have that study. That study is right here on screen. The NASA Unidentified Anomalous Phenomena Independent Study Team Report. There's all the panelists, everything. Welcome back to the show, Mike Turber. How are you doing, my friend?
I am doing excellent. I had to find the mute button on this software is different. I was talking. I was like, oh, wait. I'm sure he doesn't hear me because that mute sign came up. It says, "Are you trying to talk?"
Yeah. Yes, I am.
Yeah, I'm doing good. How are you?
Doing great, bud. Always glad to have you on to discuss these things. You, of course, are right down the road from NASA, right there in Florida.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
The panel that happened the other day, the public announcement that happened, a lot of people seem to be very disappointed in, very crestfallen. I don't know what they expected.
Yeah.
From a group of liberal scientists.
Right. Yeah. It should have been less objective thought process to get into, to go, okay, I wonder what we're going to get out of this from a bunch of scientists, as opposed to, say, the UAP task force, which I had more hopes on them. As far as anything was concerned. But then when it came out, remember that, 1 out of 144, and everybody's just kind of going, oh no, come on. It's like we're rooting for a team, and the day that the team is ready to come out and play, it's like, oh no, please. We want answers. We want to know what's going on. Something's happening in our skies. As skeptic as I am, I have to admit there are things that are going on that can't be explained.
Yeah. But
everything can be explained. It's just, do we have the technology to figure out what is happening? And if we're being visited by what would be technologically advanced by, say, 100 years or 1,000,000 years or 1,000 years or however many years, then we may not have the technology to detect these things, but we're able to detect something that's going on right now. So if we are, we need to know what it is and how it affects us. And yeah, there's a national security aspect to it, but if they wanted to come crush us, they could just do it.
Well, it's like Dr. Michael Masters says. I mean, the whole concept behind the non-human intelligence is the fact of, hey, it could be a probe that we've sent back from the future.
Mm-hmm.
It could be a probe from an adjunct, from another bubble inside of the tub of suds that is the universe. It could just be a parallel dimension that's reaching out. Who knows? We don't know. And to keep saying alien is to keep saying Kleenex. Or to keep saying Charmin. There's 100 different versions of toilet paper out there.
Yeah.
And
the bigger aspect, I think, that is I think where a lot of that comes from is the moment someone hears. It's the whole reason why they got rid of the term UFO, pretty much, is because you hear UFO, most people, myself included, I get it, automatically flip towards the extraterrestrial version of it, so to speak. But in the literal terms, unidentified flying object was literally that. Unidentified flying object. It's object flying. We don't know what it is.
Yes.
Simply, there's the category. And UAP is now a little bit more broad, I guess, a broader paintbrush for that.
Well,
but it's the same thing.
that was addressed by a BBC reporter. The fact of, just because you've painted this under the banner of UAP, most people still think UFO. Despite what you think. And now the importance of doing it that way, like you're saying, Mike, and like NASA is saying, she's saying that you aren't dropping the stigma by saying that. To the general public, no, you are not. To science as a whole, oh, hell yes, you are.
Yeah.
Yes,
and the
you
media
are, because now you are talking phenomena. And when you talk about phenomena, that is quite literally the purview of science. That is, hold on. I'm going to reach here behind me. I'm going to disappear just for a second, folks. But I'm going to grab this compendium of books that I got. It started at MUFON, and I've gotten 2 more since. But here they are.
Chris, where'd you go?
Oh my God! These are actual scientific reference books, Michael. Like volume A, A1, E1, G1. We're talking Strange Phenomena, a source book of unusual and natural phenomena. Strange Planet, a source book of unusual geologic facts. A source book of curious astronomic observations. And I mean, things in this going back to like the 1700s, like cases of ball lightning that were written about, stuff like that. So if you were doing a study into a phenomena, like this shows the fact that looking at phenomena is quite literally the job of science. Like these are straight up off a scientific bookshelf.
Absolutely.
to go do your study on, whenever you change that definition, Miss Reporter Lady from BBC, you're darn tootin'. In the realm of science, it makes a big difference, because now we aren't talking about something willy-nilly. We're talking about exactly what the job of science is, which is to figure out a phenomena.
Right. And that is, and they're going to use many methods that are employed throughout science that we all know to expect is, repeatable things, what have you. But the thing about UAP, UFOs, the thing about them is that they don't happen in areas necessarily at a specific date or a certain time. And we don't have a really good way of studying them because it's such a fleeting event. It's like the happen chance of catching something on film is very low. But with the number of cameras that are now out there, I mean, we've got more phones than we have people.
You'd have to know where to point the camera and when.
Yeah, exactly. And then a lot of people say, well, everyone has a cell phone. You should, and it has a really good camera. Yeah, but it's still not made to do what it is we're trying to do. But we do have devices that I think should be utilized in ways to help figure this out.
Sure.
If and you and I kind of know what those devices are, but most of the people listening know what those devices are. And if we get that intelligence community into that mindset of look, you guys want to prove this or disprove this, then let's utilize resources that we have that are not necessarily working on it. We're not at war with anyone at the moment that I'm aware of. It's the first time in a long time. But let's utilize some of those resources. If you guys there's discs that they put in the desert that they use to calibrate satellites. Then while you're sitting there doing all of your calibration stuff, why don't you sit there and point at some of these things? If MUFON has a live reporting ability, and they have some way to tap into that would be kind of cool. I would like to do an effort where we go back through all of the dates and times of sightings and match those up with any satellite photographs that may have been taken at the same time to see if there's some anomalous object in that area.
Well,
I think
that was the big discussion during the last conversation we had. Whenever there was or not the last was Grush talking about the whistleblower panel, but before that was the NASA panel that was with Arrow. And that's exactly what the head of Arrow said was, hey, you know, there's a lot of sensitive things that I have access to, but I can't point them in America. But if we know that something flew over Poughkeepsie at this time, hey, NOAA, if you have satellites that can see things into this range of the infrared, ultraviolet, get at us.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Work with us. Let's use these civilian instrumentations that are available and out there to help really start peeling back the layers of this onion to figure out what's going on. And that's exactly what NASA said numerous times during this press conference and live stream was that,
and crowdsourcing.
Oh, yeah. Well, and that's just it. That was one of the points that one of the head scientists made was that, you know, NASA lives off of transparency. I'm sorry, folks. I know you may not think that. I know you may think that people have been hiding things for generations at NASA, things like that. I'm not saying that there ain't some crazy stuff that's gone on. However, what this scientist is saying is absolutely true. Like, if you are studying lunar material, contact NASA. They'll get you a sample.
Yeah, or you can buy one. You can buy lunar material.
Oh yeah, no, I've got a piece of lunar rock that I purchased for my collection. You know, like absolutely, and that's just it. And that's what they're saying is that we make everything that we do public. All of our research is public. All of their research, because they are a .gov, because we pay them, all of their research is public. Just so you know, artists, like this image of sprites that you see shooting up in the sky and stuff here, hey, if you want to use that for an album cover, cool, use it. Make sure to put credit NASA.
That's all you got to do?
That's all you got to do. You've already paid for the rights. You're a citizen.
Well, here's something. Remember when we lost Malaysia Airlines flight, and then they released a bunch of the possible locations, but they just didn't have the resources to comb over all of that area. So they were able to crowdsource and basically release those images to the public. And I was on that team, and we went back and we started to look for the Malaysian flight. And by doing that, you know, it gave everyone a sense of actually, contributing to try to figure this out. And if we can do something similar where we can go back and say, okay, this series of satellite images or what have you, taken at this certain date and time may or may not have a certain object in it. Here's the time of the reported sighting. Here's the angle. Here's what they reported seeing, but all this other stuff, and put that into play and allow that to happen. And that would cost them virtually nothing to try to get intelligence resources in to do that is going to be a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Because one, the intelligence community is not really, into the UFO scene, so to speak, and
you don't, nor do you want them in it. And you also don't want them playing around in the world of civilian. As soon as you give them reign in the world, and I'm not saying they ain't got reign as the world of civilian. They got contractors beyond contractors out there, Jack. They pretty much do what they want with impunity through said contractors, as we've heard from Grush and other situations. Now, let's go ahead and get into our first clip here, because if you want to head over to curiousrealm.com/video, folks, that is where you can find our embedded playlist there, just underneath our show files. And here's the first clip. Now, this guy, he may be brilliant, I don't know, but I'm here to tell you he's not quippy. And he doesn't move fast when he speaks. But listen to what he's saying, because the message here at the beginning of this is oh so important. So here it is.
Now, NASA has a statutory authority to look for life in the universe. And when you think of the universe, and especially what we have learned from the James Webb Space Telescope, how vast that it is. We knew before, and it was a NASA scientist, Dr. John Mather, who got the Nobel that determined that the universe was 13.8 billion years old. And over the years, particularly accelerated in the last century, we have an understanding that, of course, ours is not the only galaxy. And there are billions and billions of galaxies, and each of those galaxies, including our own, have billions and billions of stars. And with the James Webb looking at the exoplanets, we are now beginning to discover, and somewhere out there we will discover, another medium-sized stony planet around a medium-sized sun or star at just the right distance, not too far, not too close, with a tilt in its axis that rotates, that has carbon, that will have a habitable atmosphere.
And he goes on from there. Once again, he lays forth the necessity of what we would have to find life as we know it, conscious life, as we know and understand life. And in addition to that, the fact that it is the purview of NASA and the duty of NASA to investigate these things and to look for life.
And he was verbally giving you the Drake equation without verbally giving you the Drake equation.
Yeah.
So it's important to number one, understand, our place in the universe, and we all want to know why we're here, what's our purpose, blah, 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 all this other stuff. And that's perfect. But at the same time, it's that fear of the unknown, which fear is false evidence appearing real. It's a great little acronym. And as you peer out into the universe and you look around and you start seeing that, wow, this is way bigger than we thought, and everything that you think you know right now is not going to be the same 10 years from now, 100 years from now, especially, and even further out, which is a blip when you look at the overall scheme of things. Humans have only been on this planet. If you took the entire history of the Earth and placed it onto a 24-hour clock, humans would be here for the last 2 seconds.
Mike,
that's it.
Mike, literally, in the time that I have had you on my show, the first time in my previous incarnation, I'd say your second visit, because your first visit was all about the Las Vegas shooting. But your second visit, we were talking about Area 51, things like that. And we played the Lockheed Martin clip with the kid and the walk-in cooler size reactor, who's like, man, when I'm done with this, I'm going to need a new job. Like, I can 3-4 generation this every year. Since we have been together as friends, just in that 5-year span, they have released, Lockheed Martin has released their documentation on the nuclear reactor that fits inside of an F-16, So it's like, these things are changing constantly. And
there's so much going on in the background that are, things that you and I might be aware about it, because we're technological, misfits, if you want to call us that. They actually have to absorb this material daily. That when it does come out, we kind of knew about it like a couple of years in advance or whatever. But when it does come out, unless it hits the mass populace, a lot of people don't realize a lot of this stuff. It's some things may go into some high-end organizations or some organizations supplies with power, electricity, what have you. And those things will be game changers for them. But when they actually hit the marketplace where we actually can use it, the next one is probably going to be the big one. The consumer market is going to be turned upside down with, is going to be when graphene is truly able to be marketed and placed into products in an efficient way. That's going to be a kicker right there. I mean, there's just no doubt about that. In the advantage that we have right now of living in this time frame is the amount of change over such a short period of time, like what you're talking about, is so huge that it's hard for anyone, for us to keep up with, much less your average person. So when we come out and we say stuff, it's funny because we'll say something, a few years ago, like when we were talking about the fusion reactor from Lockheed Martin, and that video had been made, 6 years previous, I think. It was made in 2013, 2014. Mm-hmm. But it was very obscure. Hardly anyone had ever seen it. And for us to go across it, and then, within 10 years, there's something that Lockheed is going to basically put out to be tested. That could not be done in years past. If we started a project in the 70s to do the same thing, they would still be working on it. If you wanted to look at it that way. But now, I think the way the door is opening up, and a lot of times people say, when technology comes to the market that's so far advanced, they want to say it's evidence of advanced engineering, it's evidence of possible reverse engineering and stuff like that. You have to wonder, since, man, there might be something to that. There's every now and then I sit back and I look at something and go, wow, where did they even get the idea to even do this?
Yeah. No, and once again, we've had this conversation time and time again, personally and on the show, Mike. The only way that you make the trillions back that has been funneled into this stuff, whether it be reverse engineering technology or working on exotic materials and programs, is for it to hit a battlefield or a shelf. That's it. We will not be declassified anything that is not in the vested financial interest of our country. We won't. Yeah. You won't hear it, folks. I'm sorry. It's if it's not going to ultimately end up with money in pocket, money in hand, you will be hard pressed to hear them come out and say, aliens landed at the White House. Like, they announced years ago that aliens were flying over the White House and nobody gave a damn afterward.
Right. And then
flying over the White House in fleets for weeks.
Yeah, that's right. And that one that was over the Pentagon, like, of all places to fly, the Pentagon and the White House, and they there's got to be more to this. There's got to be something.
Even seeing inside of the social media, and I'm in a lot of social media groups. I'm on the TikToks now, Mike. I'm on the TikToks.
I saw you as a member. I saw you. As soon as I saw your name come across, I was like, "Oh no!"
We are TikToking now as Curious Realm. So, There's a stigma to being a NASA scientist, no different than there is to being an experiencer. Period.
That's true. That's true.
And being a NASA scientist, or being a scientist that is investigating this, there is a stigma to it. And, fortunately, yes, the changing of the term has opened up a lot of things. It's opened up a lot of conversation. It's opened up a lot of amazing things, including, and I had it up just a minute ago. This article is from today. The news came out 2 days ago, actually. Oddly enough, using James Webb, scientists discover carbon dioxide and methane in a habitable zone planet.
Exactly.
Exactly the qualifications that the good scientist in the NASA, that's the head of the NASA group, was just talking about. We would need to find carbon. We would need to find methane. It would have to be in the Goldilocks zone. It would have to be at a tilt. Like every one of these things is there, all the markers. So we'll see what comes of it. We'll see what happens. But
well, they're also looking for other ways that some of the the molecules and stuff that we'll see in the atmospheres of these exoplanets are made using processes that may or may not come from life. Obviously, methane, well, it means the planet's got a bunch of cows. Those kind of things. But, and that's how we associate with our planet. But we also have to look that a lot of creatures live on our own planet in areas that we once thought were uninhabitable. Obviously, the bottom of the ocean is a classic example of that. But the geothermal vents, they live around those. They just need an energy source. That's why we're looking at Cladius and
tons of methane there too.
Yeah, exactly. So when you have all this, you go, okay, let's start removing other possibilities and what comes left, and let's find some way to concentrate because that planet is relatively close. It's not that far away. To see if any other types of signals are coming from that general direction or what have you. But yeah, I'm excited about that. I hope, and I know you do too, that in our lifetime that we get that answer.
And interestingly enough, one of the scientists was mentioning the fact of, listen, we aren't saying that it's not the case. It's just the fact of there's one of two ways, like scientifically, one of two ways that you can go about finding a needle in a haystack. And number one, you got to have a good definition of what a needle is and build a detector to detect needle. We don't know what needle is right now.
Right.
We don't know what that is. That's why the unidentified is there. But we do know hay, and we know hay very well. So if we can use the technology that we have and the methods that we have on hand and new methods like AI, things like that, to examine this evidence, put it up against known quantitatives and get rid of the known quantitative, then now we're dealing with the true anomalous of the 3 to 5%.
True. And if the known is the hay, and we can remove all the hay, then we know what's going to be left is
the only thing we're dealing with is anomaly. So now we've got something to work with. Now we've got a set of data. But right now we don't have that set of data, and we're trying to cull things to get to that set of data. I kept saying at the MUFON symposium, I cannot wait until they leverage AI on 50 years of MUFON data. Like, I just got goosebumps thinking about it. The possibilities, the connections that we have not seen, the patterns that we have not seen or considered, it's going to be phenomenal. And that's exactly what these guys in the NASA panel are saying. Now, the first question, which I love, came from James Fox. And I'm going to play it because it was epic. It was great. And it was one where, like, there was a stunned silence where nobody wanted to answer his question.
Of course.
where they were all like, did I drop my keys, or I can't find my room key? I'm sorry. Was there a question? Like, it's classy. So let's play that out real quick.
We'll see how it goes. Please, sir.
Thank you very much. This is directed to Mr. Nelson. Thank you for being here. Two quick questions. One is, how can we make the determination of what something isn't when we don't know what it is? And B, after a careful review of the data, if it's determined that some, underline the word some 10 times, UFOs or UAP originate from a non-human intelligence, what's the plan to disclose that to the public?
And can you identify yourself, please?
James Fox. Thank you.
I'm sorry, on what outlet?
Independent media. Thank you.
Well, let me repeat.
It's on.
Let me repeat what I said. I think it's important that you hear this word for word. The NASA Independent Study Team did not find any evidence that UAP have an extraterrestrial origin, but we don't know what these UAP are. The mission of NASA is to find out the unknown. I've said several times in my comments here today that we, NASA, deal openly and we will be transparent on this. And we're trying to address the question of there's so much concern that there's something locked up, classified, and that the American government is not being open. Well, we are the American government, and we are open, and we're going to be open about this. We don't, again, I'm going to repeat that statement, but we don't know what these UAP are, but we're going to try to find out.
Thank you very much. And is there a plan in place if it is determined that some of them represent or originate from a non-human intelligence to tell the public? Is there a plan, or?
If we are what I said we intend to be, which is transparent, you bet your boots. We will say that. And I've tried to.
You bet your boots. You gotta love that.
I love that. I like him a lot. I've talked to him a couple of times, and he's very straightforward, very easy to communicate with guy. He doesn't like BS. He doesn't like deception. He doesn't. He's just a class act. I mean, the guy's just really cool, and I don't see him as I don't see him as someone that would harbor any information in this study that would show that there's advanced life or NIH and all this other stuff, or NHI. And I'm curious as to over time. I hope he remains that way, obviously. But most of the panel members that are there are very similar in their backgrounds and how they approach the evidence that they look at. That they want everything open as well, and I think it would be very difficult for someone to keep anything under wraps that comes out of that committee. I think it would be, they may keep it under wraps for media concerns, like they'll release the information in a couple of days or a week or something like that. But I don't see, and let's put it this way, Bill Nelson's directive, his directive says nothing about keeping information away from the public or reporting their findings to specific channels. If I see
No, they are working with and in concert with Arrow. However, they are not under any guise of Arrow. They are not under any guise of any intelligence agency. They are not under any, despite the fact, as we brought up numerous times, you're hard-pressed to go be a pilot for NASA unless you've got stripes from some sort of military outfit. But that's typically because payloads and missions while you're up there are sometimes, maintaining or launching national reconnaissance objects, things like that. So somebody has to have some kind of clearance in that, right? But it's not like everybody on that shuttle mission or everybody on the mission is military or has a military background or has a classification of clearance.
Right. And then also as far as any of that's concerned, if you go back and look at the previous studies that we've talked about, Blue Book even, and then go all the way up to the UAP task force, all of those, every single one was under the DOD umbrella. Every single one of them. And this is not. So this does have a little bit of air of something a little different. And then what is it, 25 panelists that they brought in? I think it's 25. Each of them come from their own expertise in their own areas, and they're not NASA employees. You have to remember that these people are not NASA employees.
Yeah, they are scientists who work with NASA. None of them are like, hi, I head up the lunar lab at NASA or anything like that.
Right. Yeah. None of that.
They are all people who take part in NASA funded studies, that kind of stuff.
Right. And some of them NASA's worked with before. There's a couple of them I don't think NASA had really worked that much with before, other than possibly through adjacent, like a contractor or something like this. Like they would hire someone to come in from the outside to make certain that this engineering on this one project was done properly when it, in accordance to whatever rules or laws or regulations. I get that.
Now, and I am not saying that NASA doesn't hold a few deep, dark secrets. Absolutely. Because they were the ones who got us into space, who kept us in space, who keep us in space. Everything else, there is a realm of knowledge and cooperation with the government and the alphabet agencies that's there, that it's not necessarily their purview to classify things or anything like that, but you're darn tootin' if something happened that rang a bell, they'd be told to shut up.
Well, the closest thing that has happened, the closest thing that's ever happened in NASA that would show you that cause for possible alarm or the cause for questioning is when you go back and you take a look at what happened during the two shuttle incidents.
Yes.
You remember the term, lock the doors. Okay. And lock the doors doesn't mean, locking this doors to lock out any information and nothing's going to get out of this room. It's basically that they need to secure all the data, go back through all the stuff, make sure they did everything proper, all this other stuff. But it is truly transparent. It's a civilian agency. It's one letter off from another agency. There's NASA, NSA, no, but they're not related at all, obviously. But the information that is garnered through a civilian agency like NASA is utilized across the board. And they have liaisons. Speaking of liaisons, this is classic. The liaison that used to be the liaison between NASA and the Department of Defense is now the head of their UAP research. So I think it was Mark McClellan.
When NASA makes measurements,
his background, because I have a similar background, because it's part of my job is being a liaison. And when you go back and forth between different agencies, you got to have a wide berth of knowledge of different technologies, of different rules, regulations, how they relate to what have you. And a lot of that is you're not just a conveyor of information. You're also the person that has to report that information back. So you have to have your stuff together. So this guy's got to be on top of the game. So I don't know if you can pull his information up, but if you do a search for NASA names new head of UAP Research, it should be there.
From what they were saying in this panel, that they are not releasing his name publicly.
Oh, I just released it. Sorry. Oops. I may have screwed up.
No. They were asking. Somebody had asked that, and I know that they did name him. Hold on. NASA names new.
I think it's Mark McClellan. But yeah, the thing was getting someone that had that. Because he's going to have to work with DOD to get information that they have, and going back and forth as they go back and forth and utilize all that. And plus, he has to have a wide range of knowledge of himself and what tasks and what things he's worked on. And so far, just in a cursory look of his information, it looks like he's the right guy for the job. He looks like he should do a pretty good job.
Oh yeah, most definitely. And I mean, he has a background in this stuff. Once again, he has a background in intelligence. He has a background in knowledge of enemy tactics and what they have, what their capabilities are. So
right. And plus, the nuance. Yeah.
Well, especially whenever you're talking about working in concert with military, things like that. It's not that, once again, anything that NASA has is classified. Things that they find might be classified, but that's not their process.
Actually, what's so weird about it is I got to steer the Mars rover when I was over in Pasadena. And while I was there, I asked some rather open questions of some of the people I met with, and some in private, and some when we were sitting at like round table, during lunch, they have a break room kind of thing. They just sit down and you chit chat. And they're like, who's this guy? Because they're like, I'm the new guy in the area. And, so you would break the ice and say, well, what do you guys think about this? What do you guys think about that? Blah, blah, blah. And I said, have you guys ever run across something that as soon as it happened that you guys had to clamp it down and you don't have to tell me what it is, but something like that. And the only thing that would ever come close to that is the anytime the propulsion system on a craft involves something nuclear. And that was when the Atomic Commission would come in and handle that aspect of it. But that's it. If they discover something, it's there's because so many people can tap into that information stream that comes down from an International Space Station or comes even from Mars. You can listen in. I remember with the shuttle, if the shuttle came overhead with your ham radio done properly, you could talk to the shuttle astronauts if you wanted to.
I don't think you can still listen, but I don't think you can talk anymore.
You might.
You can still listen to what's going on, and like the live stream is there. Like that's right there in our playlist, man. But
I'm like you. I don't see that there's going to be any problem with that, because the term disclosure is such a term in our community that is like the holy grail term.
Disclosure will not come scientifically. Discovery comes scientifically. Proof comes scientifically. Disclosure is a legal issue. That's like what we're dealing. Disclosure is what we're dealing with Grush, where it's like disclose where the monies went. There's an obvious paper trail of black money. Disclose what's behind the door. No, we won't. That's disclosure. This is not disclosure. NASA has nothing to disclose. They have. This has not been a going pursuit of theirs. Admittedly, I mean, there's pictures, things like that. There's all kinds of stuff. Whether or not you believe we went to the moon, that's a whole nother realm. I mean, good God, man, I had a great grandmother that nope, man ain't never did that.
Some similar situation with an uncle that, you have to sit back and wonder, are they expecting someone to take like an armed team of guys that go into Wright Pat and find Hangar 18 or whatever and open that thing up and find something?
Show me the bodies.
And it's almost like the end of times kind of thing, where every few months there's disclosures coming. Disclosure will be here. Remember, it was going to be wrapped up in the UAP Task Force report, and then it was going to be wrapped up possibly in this report, and it just keeps. They keep kicking. They keep moving the field goal, and they keep kicking the ball down the field. Again, you're exactly correct. Actually, you said it more poignantly than I'm probably about to slaughter. Is that it's going to come through scientific discovery, and discovery is not disclosure. Discovery is just that. It's a scientific process of learning about the world around you, and you put that information out. The more people that have eyes on this, the better off we're going to all be in being able to study this and find out what is really going on.
And
I think.
And absolutely, the findings of these scientists, other scientists, everything else will lead to disclosure. No doubt.
Right.
No doubt. Because once again, once it comes down to the point of, well, it's got to be this technology, at that point, disclosure's there. Like, you may as well admit that the technology exists because we know now that it exists. We've quantifiably proven it through science and discovery that it exists, so you can't deny it exists anymore.
Right, and NASA's not going to be some big debunk team to go in there and debunk all this stuff. That's not what we're talking about. And I think when TTSA was out and about, to the Stars Academy, and we had the 3 videos and what have you, and as each video little parts of here and there were being torn apart. Unlike the TTSA or some other organizations, NASA would have to agree that certain aspects of a video are not as we thought or something. Like the classic examples go fast. Obviously, it wasn't anywhere near the ocean in relation to that. Its speed was far slower than they had alluded to. But those kind of things are observations or peer review. And when you have that type of openness, that's something I think we need. That would be cool where NASA has a NASA panel, and then within that NASA panel is someone that's charged with just getting this information out to the public as quickly as possible. And, just like Susan Goff and what have you. And I hope going forward that flow of information will be free flowing. And we don't have to keep waiting for these meetings or reports to come out. Just put it out there just like they do everything else. I mean,
that is very much what they are laying the groundwork for right now. Is once again removing that scab of stigma within the scientific community to say, hi, how you doing? NASA researcher, I'm looking into this, just wondering if you've run across this kind of data in your work, and coming at it like that, you'd be surprised what other scientists may be like, come to think of it, we did have some of these weird things. Here you go. Where hey, it may have just been an anomalous thing on a meter, But if it correlates and leads down a trail of discovery scientifically, it's an important clue, Well,
if anything leads to an explanation as to if someone walks out of their front door of their house and they see something, and then later on, if the government comes in and explains what the hell it was, no one's going to trust that. No one. They want it to come from, someone that, saying. So, but NASA, is the government, but it's not that part of the government that everyone's concerned about with. But
they have a government purview, like they are funded by the government, and yes, they are national. They are the National Aeronautic and Space Administration, and that's exactly what they've been saying. Is that aeronautic, even figuring out what these things are and how they're flying. That's our job.
Yeah. And
aeronautic, it's in the skies, and it's over our nation. That's exactly what we're supposed to be doing.
Security. Yeah, and as soon as something, the national security threat term has been thrown around in this arena so much since all this, the latest hysteria has started. I guess we can date it back to TTSA, I guess. But when something becomes a matter of national security, then we wouldn't know about it at all. You got guys flying around in the back of their planes with their iPhones out, taking pictures out their own canopy of objects, and these images are getting out, which some of them turned out to be Batman and shark balloons or whatever, but that's okay. It's still getting, and that means they were willing to not utilize the $3 million camera that's on their wing and she's the $1,000 camera in their pocket, but they still got the information and they still get it out. And as we look forward, I hope that utilization of our resources is done in such a way that's proper, it's managed properly, it's efficient, and things like that. In the past, we've always, every study I've ever seen in the past, they've always had some weird things, and as far as getting answers, and we at the end of the study, we always remember government spends $20 million trying to determine why a horse stubs his toe, whatever, stuff like this. Why would they spend that much money? And so some people view this as the same thing. They view it as the government putting money into a research project.
No, they see this as a whitewash.
Yeah.
This is a veneer, nothing more.
Yeah.
And that brings up the final part of our discussion tonight, which was broached because these things were happening concurrently in the social media world. But a reporter from the BBC did broach a question about the Mexican alien bodies brought forward by Jaime Hassan to the Mexican Congress. I have said on social media, like, I hope, I think it'd be great. I think it'd be awesome. I don't hold out a whole lot of hope. Not after a fairy body, not after the Paracas mummies that were pretty well proven to be human. But once again, that's where peer-reviewed science comes in, and access to data. Once again, and you can say what you want about the Paracas mummies, things like that. Sure, Gaia Network, they did a study. They have shared that data with nobody, and they share samples with nobody.
Yeah,
so,
same thing with
go get some peer-reviewed information. That's exactly what NASA is saying, is like, this is what we do is peer-reviewed data. Like, you want to look at lunar rocks? Give us a mailing address. We'll send you some lunar rock. Show us that you're doing the scientific work, and we will gladly share data with you, to the point that everything is there at NASA.gov. Like, all of their stuff. Right there, like NASA.gov/UAP is where you can find all of their UAP stuff. Every bit. So,
I think this is going to be a roller coaster ride. I think there's going to be a lot of buildup for whatever the next report may be, because you have those same individuals out there that tend to hype what information may or may not be coming out, and then when it comes out, it becomes anticlimactic, and everybody's upset, and then they do it all over again. And the same people get all excited again. And after a while, you turn it off to that. Yeah. But
with the hype being said, let's get to that hype question real quick from the reporter.
Let's do that.
Yourself too, please.
Good morning, Sam Cabral with BBC News Digital. We've been talking a lot about shift from sensationalism to science today. Has NASA been in touch with the Mexican authorities about the rather sensational revelations earlier this week of 2 allegedly non-human corpses? And what, if any, importance do you attach to these discoveries?
I think David had to prep for that one.
Well, this is something that I know I've only seen on Twitter. So it's, when we have unusual things, you want to make data public. I think of this as like NASA has one of the most valuable samples from outer space, lunar rocks. What do? We make them available to any scientists who want to work on this. We don't know the nature of those samples that were shown in front of them. If I was the Mexican government, I would be making recommendations to the Mexican government. That's not our charge here. We're doing this for NASA. My recommendation was, if you have something strange, make samples available to the world scientific community, and we'll see what's there.
I'll just add that one of the main goals of what we're trying to do here today is to move conjecture and conspiracy towards science and sanity, and you do that with data, as David says. And that's the whole purpose of this study and this roadmap.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I love that guy. He's awesome. I love listening to him speak. He is so entirely cogent with what his mission is and what this is all about. He's fantastic.
Yeah, and you can look right into his eyes and know that he wants to say things a different way, but he's quite comical in some regards. I'm sure I think the first few minutes of some of that speech is him explaining his thought process of taking on this task of being that spokesperson.
Even the straight out bullying of NASA scientists online, in social media, everything else, it's one of those that is not how you get somebody's help.
No, it's not. But you also got to remember that if you go into a bar that's known for bar fights and you see a bar fight, you can't bitch about the bar fight.
So you really can't.
No, you can't. But you can bitch about it all day long, but you're still going to see bar fights. And part of the reason why people go to the bar is either start the bar fight or to watch the bar fight if that gets comical. So that's what that's what happens with Twitter. That's what happened. Remember the early days of Facebook and some of these others is that people come on, you have the trolls, and that's what they do. And that's how the website I built for the knife community, which is bladefarmers.com. That website was created because of a troll. I decided, enough of this crap. I'm going to do this way. And let that site belong essentially to the people. The only rule ahead, don't attack an individual. You can attack someone's work. You can attack whatever you want to do about what they have done as far as the work is concerned, whether it's a product or whether it's whatever it is. But when it comes to the person, no. And I think Twitter allows too much of that to go on. I think since it's changed hands and it's now X and what have you, it's possibly getting a little better in some regards. But that's going to be a product of the environment, and as you well know,
and
the internet is.
That is a lot of the conversation that they were having was that seems to be all over in society right now, because. That is just the way of social media, and
it's not
the fact of as they are growing into this, they've, it's.
But that's where if they control the release of information and not necessarily rely on feedback through social media, I think it'll be a lot better off. Just like NASA does currently, whenever they have information or what have you, they put it out to official channels. And once that information's out, it's disseminated, blah, 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 they're not going to rely on Twitter. They're not going to rely on Facebook or whoever to release information on, and then not expect, the 2% or 3% that's out there that love to stir up things to come on and do it. But I think training needs to be done also for anyone that comes into this arena that explains that, hey, I think they know it. I don't think they were hoodwinked in it, and then all of a sudden,
Yeah, but brother, you know as well as I do, though. That's a different level in a different arena, and your casual scientist who is out there who may not be on the Twitters, may not be on TikToks. Or Facebooking all day, they've got a LinkedIn profile probably,
Yeah. I've seen a few come on to a show and then just kind of wonder.
It's the fact of these communities are sharpened like rapiers and they use them like friggin' machetes.
Absolutely.
It can be a bloodbath sometimes inside of them if you are not careful, what tropes you tread on. And hey, it's same as our conversation with Jack Sarfati. You know, whenever we had Jack on that one time, where it was like, what the hell are you talking about? That's not on topic.
Yeah,
like,
Jack's pretty much
that crap down, dude. He was like, well, I don't want to talk about that because that's not what we're here talking about. That's not the science that we're talking about today. So no. And you do that in some communities, and they will lambaste you. Most definitely.
Yes, they will.
Like, enjoy your petard, my friend.
Especially some of these, I don't want to call them subculture communities, but some of the communities that they have been together for so long that they allow only, their friends, so to speak, to say something that might be a little off. Because if you say it, because you're the new guy, it might.
Where it's kind of like an echo chamber.
Yeah, exactly. Reddit's a prime example of some of that. But I think overall, if NASA and this panel come out with a ground-shaking, mind-blowing, something that they find, it's still going to go the same process that they did before. Remember back when they were going to say that they had found the possibility of life on Venus, and that information was somewhat leaked out, but we knew it was I think it was going to come out on like a Tuesday or something like that. But the Friday before, I had already been privy to part of that information as to what it was. And I said, man, you guys are going to get lambasted as it comes Tuesday, because if this comes out that way, and the public's expecting something, ridiculously explosive, and then you're going to have to explain the scientific aspect of it in terms that everyone's going to be able to understand as to how important it is. And then nothing. You've heard nothing about Venus since around that time frame, right? So, and that's the kind of thing that I hope this doesn't happen in this arena where they find something, it gets put out there, and then all of a sudden it's shut down. If these guys are truly the scientists that they need to be, or the experts that they need to be in their fields to be a member of this panel, then I hope that by the time the information gets to us, that they will have researched it to the point where they can make it a definitive answer as to what this is. I want to know what things are. I don't want to know what they aren't. We look for these organizations for answers. That's what we want. And when we don't get them, you see what happens. A lot of people don't respond too well.
Well, or if they get the answer that they don't want.
Right, sure.
Right?
Yeah. That's more important.
Unfortunately, they got some answers.
Yep.
They got some answers. One of them was about Go Fast.
Yeah. I sat
like
there.
One of the reporters was like, "This is one of the videos that was brought out originally and was on the forefront of all this, and now you've come through and debunked it." And they're like, "Yeah, unfortunately, yeah. Like there was some basic trigonometry involved with all the data right there on the camera." But
myself and Nick West and all my sons probably sitting back going, "Yes, finally vindicated."
Yeah. No, when I saw that, like I almost spilled my drink standing up, like, yeah. Because it was like, that's what I said the whole time, was like, there's all that data on the screen. So much data.
Yeah, right there.
So much data.
And then even Dr. Eric Davis, he said Mike's math is wrong and all this other stuff. And the thing is that if there's enough information there, by the time it gets to these individuals that are on this committee, I don't want to be disappointed in them.
Well,
I want them to come out and say, we were given this video, and as we researched the video, we could tell that the information inside the video actually gave us a lot more. Go ahead.
I think the problem is, though, like, culturally, is that people want these scientists to be wowed or excited about this data. About these points of datum and this set of data.
Maybe if it's another wow signal like thing, but
the thing is, there, even with a wow signal, there's the initial wow, and then the data, and let's start digging at the data. Now it's out of my hands. It has to be out of my hands because I was wowed. So I need to give it to somebody who can look at this data dispassionately. Like, that's the job of a scientist, people, is to look at it dispassionately. And I'm sorry if they aren't, like, as passionate and on fire about it as I am. You know?
I think also if you pass it out to enough people, like I was saying on the crowdsourcing of some of the data, there are plenty of people out there that that are not necessarily double PhDs or whatever, but have a good working knowledge. I mean, myself, I don't have a double PhD. Mick West doesn't have a double PhD. There's a whole bunch of people that are out there that look at this subject as...
There's a whole bunch of work that's done out there in labs by friggin' master's students.
Yeah, and just put it out there. Yeah, or just put it out there and let anyone take it and then see what comes back and then sift through that. You'd be amazed at how fast we can figure things out. Because it'll take 2 years for the government. Yeah, exactly. I mean, within hours, you'll have enough feedback back where you can probably say, wow, okay, I didn't even think about it from that angle. Yeah, that object is at 11,380 feet, not near the surface, blah, blah, blah.
And once again, just to loop this back to the beginning there, Mike, is the idea that, yes, changing that definition from UFO to UAP scientifically is hugely important because it changes the direction of movement on the board of the piece. You know? It's no longer moving in the linear fashion that it was. And in the gnome fashion it was. It is now moving in a new fashion. It is now moving at a new speed. And because of that, can now be looked at communities like NASA, who, like NASA themselves is saying, prides themselves on the community sharing of information, on the crowdsourcing of information, on the sharing of data, evidence, samples, things like that, so that we can all explore and figure it out.
Yeah. And a lot of times when people change the term or something, by broadening, by changing the term, they basically broaden the canvas that this overall picture is going to be painted on. And it is all about the picture. And I think that's a good thing. And you don't want to leave anything out where like it's compartmentalized almost. You want it to cover everything. If something's UAP, it's unidentified anomalous phenomenon. It doesn't matter if it's flying, floating, farting, whatever it's doing.
Under the water, flying through lava, doesn't matter. The audience may be tired of it. I started saying it right up around the time of MUFON Symposium, and I've been saying it, that beautiful term of non-human intelligence removes the idea of alien.
Right.
The work that the NASA panel is trying to do by saying UAP, and Arrow and everybody by saying UAP instead of UFO, is to take it out of the box that it's been in, that scientists won't look at because it's not inside of their box of science.
Right.
We're not going to look at UFOs because it doesn't fit inside of our box of science. And
but here's what's cool about
calling it all a UFO and saying that it's alien in origin, you are being no less narrow-minded than that scientist. Because if it doesn't fit inside that box, then it's not. Right?
Yeah.
We have to lift these veils. We have to be willing to use new terminologies. We have to be willing to crowdsource information. We have to be willing to turn AI loose on data sets like crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
That's going to be huge. That'll be huge. Hopefully it won't necessarily be the chat GPT 3.0.
Man, we need to do a whole episode with somebody about AI. I don't know. I think a whole bunch of people are worried about a whole lot of nothing right now. Literally, like you have to task an AI, and it only comes up with things that are out there. It calls information that's out there, and then comes up with similar information.
Yeah, it does. It does. When you have it extrapolate, it kind of extrapolates in a creative process.
The dangerous thing ain't the AI. It's right. The people not being able to tell the difference between an AI and somebody writing. That's true. That's the problem.
Yeah. Or just like the AI videos. Remember, you got videos of people doing things that that person never did.
No, like Robert Duncan, there was probably about 2/3 that was right there. Like, I'm not gonna lie, my new bio was AI written, folks, and it reads pretty well. It reads pretty well. I went through, I edited it, I fact checked it, all that kind of stuff, but it reads great.
You had to fact check your own bio?
Well, I mean, I wanted to make sure that the things that were in there were right.
Yeah, I'm messing with you.
But quite honestly, it's remarkable. And the possibilities that are out there are great, but you've still got to cull through the data afterward. Whenever you give AI a task, that kind of stuff. Like, I don't think it's taken anybody's jobs for a long, long time. I don't think it's going to Whopper and taking over nuclear codes or anything like that. Like right now it can't even draw friggin' hands right. It's got the same problem as every junior high artist out there. The hands are just whacked out.
Yeah, that's true.
Beautiful face, amazing body. The hands are like, yo, what is that? Is that 6 fingers?
One thing, but the people that do all the copywriting and stuff like this, not copyrights, but where you write copy or you write stories.
No.
Man, they're going to have to shift their focus quite a bit, and they're going to have to understand that if I was going out and I was going to write a novel or write a book or write a story, and I was going to hire a ghostwriter or this or that, I now have the option of using AI, where I don't have to have it. I can manipulate the results in such a way that, or edit the results to fit whatever it is I'm trying to do. But my God, the speed at which it can do it is just mind-blowing. I write a 5,000-word story on a certain object that I worked on back during SDI. I was amazed at the information it came back with and how little I had to edit it. I sat back and went, well, there's a lot more information apparently out there than I thought, because I thought I was going to have to edit in a lot more than I did, and I didn't. So I was pretty impressed. It's kind of scary too.
Wow. Well, Mike, I want to thank you so much as always for coming on, talking about this stuff, breaking down this recent panel that just happened, all the research coming up from NASA, everything else. Let everybody know where they can keep up with 5x5 News. I know you have been out on the road working like crazy, things like that lately, but where can people keep up with what you're doing, and where can people follow along, bud?
The two places are probably going to be the easiest to work with would be YouTube. Just search 5x5 News. I should be the subject matter to good news. You've been rock solid there. You're a good friend, and I love your show, and I love subject just seems to float, and wherever it goes, sometimes it goes, and we have fun with it.
That's it. Exactly. Well, hold on real quick while we close things out with the audience, Mike. Of course, while you are online checking out all of the amazing work of Mike Turber and 5x5 News, both on his Facebook page as well as his YouTube. His YouTube, like all of our guests' YouTubes, are embedded at curiousrealm.com/videos. Make sure to stop on by curiousrealm.com, like, follow, subscribe, everybody. Stay tuned for more amazing coverage from live events. We'll be going out to Texas Bigfoot Conference here in October. I'm getting ready to be on the road again, so get ready for an awesome pre-recorded episode coming up. But you can always catch us right here on curiousrealm.com/live every Tuesday night, everybody. You can catch us on our YouTube page. You can catch us on Facebook, all kinds of stuff. So until next time, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and remember, stay curious. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Thank you for tuning into this episode of The Curious Realm. Stay tuned for more guests, forbidden topics, and hidden truths. Download the official Curious Realm app and view the Knowledge Vault on our website, curiousrealm.com. Follow us on social media by searching Curious Realm. Curious Realm is available on your favorite podcast services, as well as YouTube, Roku, Amazon Fire, and Apple TV through the APR TV app, available on all app markets. Curious Realm is a proud member of the HC Universal Network family of podcasts. For more great content or to become a sponsor of Curious Realm or other podcasts, visit hcuniversalnetwork.com today. Thanks for listening. Stay curious. And remember, the other side is always watching.